Chapter 703. A long red carpet was laid on the white jade steps, leading straight to the dazzling Emperor Temple. The surrounding scenery was extremely luxurious. There was a building every 5 steps and a pavilion every 10 steps. The stage was warm and the spring scenery was harmonious. On both sides of the long steps, countless dancers waved their long sleeves and danced beautifully. When Lin Muyu walked up the long steps, the officials on both sides knelt down one after another and shouted, "Long live your majesty." In the distance, a boundless army with bright swords and armor knelt down in unison. Their shouts soared into the sky and it was extremely glorious. "Your Majesty," a group of peerlessly beautiful imperial concubines all knelt down to welcome him. Every single one of them was extremely charming. You're back." The doors of the temple opened slowly. It was Qin Yin. She wore a long dress that covered her entire body and smiled at him adorably and shyly. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and come in. Xiao Shi and I are waiting for you." As she spoke, Qin Yin walked forward and hugged Lin Muyu's left arm while Tang Xiaoxi, who was dressed in a fiery red dress, hugged his right arm. She smiled and said, "Mu, you must be exhausted after running around for so many years. Tonight, Xiao Yin and I will serve you to bed. Hurry up and tell us what you want to eat tonight. The imperial kitchen will prepare it immediately." Qin Yin smiled and said, Look over there." There was a huge map hanging between 2 giant pillars in the temple. Zhen Yifan knelt on one knee and cupped his fists respectfully. "Your Highness, the southeast has been pacified. The Empire's military is mighty and has conquered thousands of miles. All the feudal vassals have submitted to you. Your Highness has conquered the 4 seas. Now, the entire world is your Highness's." Not far away, Chuyao brought a few maids with her. She held some preserved fruits in her hands and smiled. "Let's eat before the meal. There will be a banquet in Zhe Tian Palace tonight. Everyone will be here soon." Lin Muyu was confused. At this moment, the door to the side of the hall opened, and the rays of the setting sun shone in. A few figures walked in one after another. The person at the front was Chu Huaying, who had passed away many years ago. His handsome face was still the same as before, and he smiled at Lin Muyu. You've returned. You've worked hard. Tonight, we won't go home until we're drunk. I've invited Zhenxiang over as well to play a song for everyone." Behind Chu Huayin was Qin Lei. Qin Lei still had the scar on his face. He grinned and said, You's back. We missed you so much after you left for so many years. Come, we won't leave until we're drunk tonight. Us brothers and have not seen each other in. Oh. Lin Muyu was a little stunned. At this moment, Feng Jixing also walked in and laughed. Don't just stand there. Let's go to the rear hall and have a jar of wine to warm up. Oh right, Great Deacon Lei Hong has also returned from his travels. Also, Chu Chu and Chu Feng should have returned from gathering herbs. These 2 old men really can't take it anymore. They deal with herbs every day and yet they're not annoyed at all. But, tonight's meal will definitely be packed. Brother Chu Huayin, Brother Qin Lei. Grandpa Lei Hong, Lin Muyu's eyes became hot. He stood there in a daze and didn't move. He looked at everyone present reluctantly. Suddenly, he raised his head and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. Everything was illusory, but everything was so beautiful. Greed. Everyone in the world was greedy. They were greedy for power and wealth. They were greedy for the love that shattered their dreams in the blink of an eye. They were greedy for the illusions of glory and splendor. However, everything was ultimately fake. How many pitiful people were living in their memories, living in the beautiful times that had passed by. They were pitiful and sad, at a loss, but they didn't know themselves. Lin Muyu was naturally open-minded and cheerful. He could see through everything, but he wasn't willing to. He was also greedy. He was greedy for the love he had with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. He loved Qin Yin deeply, but he asked himself, did he really not have the same love for Tang Xiaoxi? He wasn't willing to face it. He was afraid that he would sink deeper and deeper. However, in the end, he couldn't escape the torment of fate. Love was love. The rules and regulations of the world could control a person's body, but they couldn't control a person's feelings. If it was wrong, then everyone in the world was wrong. However, love would never be wrong. Love was tolerance, love was giving, love was greed. Love was a mark that was engraved on one's bones. It couldn't be washed away or scraped off. Love was an inadvertent memory. Love was the longing in the deepest part of one's heart that no one knew about. Greed was a mistake, but love was not wrong. Lin Muyu's body trembled, and tears flowed down his face. He raised his hand, pulled out his sword, and stabbed it into the ground. Dang! A golden light swept out. The surrounding illusions of Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Huayin, and the others all disappeared. Lin Muyu looked up at the sky and said softly, I love them, but I won't be greedy to possess them. I'm willing to protect them and never abandon them. Boom! It was as though a door had opened in the sky. The light swept across the land, and in the blink of an eye, it pierced through the mirror of the greed world. Lin Muyu's insight had opened the door to the next world, the desolate world. The bottom of the 12 worlds, the Nirvana world. Dong Lin stood between heaven and earth and looked at everything above him. He couldn't help but have a look of resentment on his face. This brat actually saw through the greed world. Humph, but he still has to die in the end. Bastard! He trespassed into the quiet spring and still wants to come out alive. He must be dreaming. Do you think that I, Dong Lin, am a persimmon that is easy to bully? Divine realm, at the border of East Heaven. On a spiritual mountain surrounded by clouds and high mountains, there was a small palace with pavilions, terraces, and waterside pavilions. It was called West Plains Palace. It was a palace built by East Heaven on the western border. It was also the resting place of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor during the war. Auspicious light lingered in the West Plains Palace. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor stood by the lotus pond. He frowned and said, the spatial disorder caused by the war of the gods made it impossible for us to see through the heaven pond illusory realm. We also can't see what is happening in the ghost domain. What should we do? You actually entered the quiet spring. That bastard, Ghost Emperor Dong Lin, will definitely not let you go. Xiao said, do you want me to descend again? Maybe I can sneak into the ghost domain without being discovered. No. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor waved his hand and said, firstly, you have descended too many times. It is easy to damage your cultivation. Secondly, you are from the divine realm and have long been recorded in the 3 realms register. Once you appear in the ghost domain, it is equivalent to violating the 3 realms laws. The 3 ghost emperors in the ghost domain are nothing to be afraid of. I am only worried that those old fellows in the sky beyond heavens will cause trouble. When that time comes, I am afraid that it will be really troublesome. Xiao bit her red lips and said, but we can't just ignore it. With Yu's current cultivation, he is definitely not a match for Ghost Emperor Dong Lin. Let me think about it. Maybe we can send someone else. Fairy Qing Ping, who was beside Xiao, shook her head and said, in any case, I am not going. I don't have a deep friendship with Lin Muyu. I am not asking you to go. You just have to guard the spiritual mountain. Where is Sun Feng? He is here. Outside the hall, a group of God State experts arrived on clouds. Sun Feng walked into the hall delicately and said with a smile, reporting to Demon Emperor, we have achieved a complete victory in this battle. We have killed a total of more than 300 angels and seized a total of more than 70 spiritual mountains in the Western Heaven realm. How much did we lose? 5 god kings and 73 hierarch gods died in battle. Is this considered a complete victory? The 7 luminaries demon emperor raised his eyebrows and said, injuring 1,000 enemies while injuring 800 ourselves. This is clearly a losing deal. Sun Feng, you are not competent enough as the commander-in-chief. Sun Feng was somewhat indignant and said, Demon Emperor, I have done my best. If Demon Emperor feels that I am not competent enough, feel free to replace me as commander-in-chief. I will not complain. Yo, throwing a tantrum? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor smiled and said, you are too honest. I can't even joke with you. However, in terms of war, Sun Feng, you are indeed inferior to one person. Who? Sun Feng was stunned. You, that kid is a natural genius at war. If he had ascended to the divine realm, I reckon I wouldn't have to waste so much effort. This, Xiao bit her red lips and said, could it be that the Demon Emperor already has a new plan? Yes. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's eyes were deep as he said, since the gods of the Western Heaven realm have started a war, I have no choice but to accept it. The Western Heaven realm is vast and controls many spirit mountains. If we take over the Western Heaven realm, I plan to go to the Western Heaven realm and let you guard the Eastern Heaven realm. We can watch each other, only then can we contend against the Northern and Southern Heaven realms. But that kid, you can't forget the trivial matters of the mortal world. I'm afraid he won't be able to ascend for a few years. I know. That kid still can't see through the mortal world. Xiao couldn't help but laugh. If you had beauties like Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi in the mortal world, would you still ascend to the divine realm? This, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor hesitated. At this moment, Qing Ping suddenly said, Demon Emperor, there is actually a way that might be able to help Lin Muyu. Speak. Since the Demon Emperor can't help Lin Muyu directly, then why not help him indirectly? Hasn't the Demon Emperor already cultivated the soul-vanquishing curse? I think, with the Demon Emperor's telekinesis power, he can penetrate the 3 realms plane and reach the ghost domain. He can use the soul-vanquishing curse to suppress the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor's divine power. With Lin Muyu's strength, it shouldn't be difficult to defeat the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor who has most of his divine power suppressed, right? Soul-vanquishing curse, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's body trembled. His eyes were filled with a fierce light. He smiled and said, I actually forgot the secret art that I painstakingly studied. That's right, the soul-vanquishing curse can help you. Alright, this matter should not be delayed. I'm going into seclusion. Xiao, protect me. I'll leave the war with the Western Heaven realm to the 2 of you, Sun Feng and Qing Ping. Please rest assured, Demon Emperor. The 2 divine generals cupped their fists in unison. The secret chamber of the palace was silent. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor sat cross-legged and spread out his palms. Golden runes rose from his palms. The soul-vanquishing curse was a secret art that attacked the divine power of the soul. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's 7 luminaries' profound energy was already a secret art that dominated the world. Therefore, he didn't create another tyrannical martial art. Instead, he created this soul-vanquishing curse. It used telekinesis power to attack the opponent's spirit, damaging their divine power and achieving the goal of harming others to benefit himself. Swoosh! A wisp of supreme divine sense penetrated the 3 realms and went straight into the ghost domain. Dong Lin, it's time for you to die. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a proud smile. Chapter 704. On the 11th level of the Nether Spring, in the Mahayana world, this was already the 28th day since Lin Muyu entered the Nether Spring. Ethereal Sanskrit chants reverberated in the secluded space, golden clouds shrouded the sky, and gods appeared one after another. Although Lin Muyu didn't recognize these gods, she guessed that they were all experts from the Mahayana world. Since this was an illusion, everything came from the heart. Naturally, Lin Muyu didn't need to be afraid of these illusions. In the air, a fairy maiden stood on a lotus flower with a long sword in her hand. She spoke softly, "Lin Muyu, you've killed so many people, don't even think of ascending to the Mahayana world. Die." As she swung her sword, countless rays of sword light flashed, as if there were 10,000 sharp swords attacking her. Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold as she gently opened her left palm. Instantly, a spherical golden gourd appeared around her, forming a perfect defense that completely blocked off the fairy's sword chi. At the same time, the astral sword in her hand shone resplendently as it was filled with supreme god force, unleashing a barrage of attacks. In a short instant, Lin Muyu attacked a total of 28 times, each sword stronger than the one before. The last sword even shattered the fairy maiden's long sword. Opening her palm, god force gushed out, and Lin Muyu shouted, "Destroy." The fairy maiden's expression froze, and her body turned into golden dust, flying in the air. Sure enough, it was just an illusion. "Lin Muyu, watch my halberd." Behind her, a heavenly god wielding a bronze-colored halberd dashed over. A piercingly cold wind blew, and when he swung his halberd, it was as if he brought along an inescapable net, exerting a strong pressure on Lin Muyu. The supreme godhead Sea of Caring suddenly shone brightly, and with a swoosh, a golden shockwave spread out with Lin Muyu at the center. The supreme godhead actually helped its owner to break free from the heavenly god Sea of Caring. Lin Muyu wielded her sword and flew away, clashing with the heavenly god. Their speed was so fast that it was almost impossible to see them with the naked eye. Only the sound of weapons clashing could be heard in the air. "Destroy!" Suddenly, there was a low shout, and the two figures appeared in the sky together. The stellar sword pierced through the throat of this heavenly god. Lin Muyu flicked her wrist lightly, and immediately, this heavenly god's body was shredded into energy fragments, and it was still an illusion. But at this moment, a fiery pain came from her back. It was an attack from a middle-aged celestial deity. The whip had actually struck Lin Muyu's back through the astral wall. Lin Muyu touched it with her hand, and her palm was covered with faint golden blood. Lin Muyu's heart immediately sank. Although the gods in the Mahayana world were all illusions, their attacks were real. If she was not careful, she would die here. Without saying a word, he turned around and attacked with lightning speed. With a bang, he forcefully collided with the long whip deity's body. The hilt of the stellar sword locked the back of the deity's head. In this way, the deity's long whip was rendered useless. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu raised her iron fist and punched it 3 times in a row, forcibly killing it. Again. In the sky, above the clouds, a celestial deity holding an iron hammer descended from the sky. Without saying a word, he raised both hammers and struck at Lin Muyu with Mount Tai. Lin Muyu had just killed a person, and her aura had not completely recovered yet. There was no way for her to dodge. She could only raise her arm and quickly condense the dragon blood battle shield. With a bang, her whole body was blasted down, and a total of 37 layers of waves came from her arm. Good heavens, any random celestial deity here was a god-king level expert. Fortunately, they were only illusions, and their strength was only about 20 to 30% of a god-king level expert. Otherwise, perhaps 2 of them together would be able to kill Lin Muyu within 10 moves. There was a sweet taste in her throat. Lin Muyu had already suffered internal injuries. Her body spun rapidly in the sky, and she suddenly stepped on the void to launch a counterattack. Her whole body flew in a spiral trajectory, and her long sword danced and slashed fiercely. That celestial deity with the war hammer relied on brute force to win. Now that Lin Muyu was competing with him in speed, how could he win? In the blink of an eye, dozens of crisscrossing sword marks appeared around the celestial deity. The instant the sharp sword chi contained in the sword marks exploded, the celestial deity's body exploded into a cloud of golden blood mist. It was still an illusion. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked. Two figures descended at the same time. This time, it was two God-King level illusions that launched an attack at the same time. It was no wonder that people said that the Nether Spring was a place where one could only enter but not leave. Even a God-Emperor level expert would not be able to maintain their strength in such a situation, and they would die here. Fortunately, Lin Muyu had a sovereign godhead. Although it was immature, it provided its master with an endless supply of divine power. This allowed Lin Muyu to last far longer than experts of the same level. Moreover, Lin Muyu had the indestructible star sword, which gave her an absolute advantage. Swoosh! Swoosh! The golden gourd vines danced wildly in the sky like poisonous snakes, and in the blink of an eye, it had bound one of the celestial deities. Lin Muyu slashed it apart with a mighty sword, and then turned around to attack the celestial deity of the Law of Fire. Immediately, the celestial deity of the Law of Fire who was waving the flames in his hand was frozen into a block of ice. However, a ball of flames still blasted onto Lin Muyu's chest, causing him to stumble back dozens of meters and vomit a mouthful of blood. "Come on, let's fight again." The deity's mocking laughter came from the sky, as if mocking Lin Muyu for being at the end of his rope. Ha ha ha! Lin Muyu stood tall in the sky, but his body was slightly bent, and he was panting heavily. In his battered state, there was only one thought in his mind: kill all these deities and bring Qin Yin home from the spring. Whoosh! With a light palm, Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, "Acatosaurus, armor transformation." Roar! A spatial rift appeared next to him, and Acatosaurus appeared in the form of energy armor. Piece by piece, they attached themselves to its owner, and in the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu was clad in a mighty and domineering dragon armor. Not only did armor fusion greatly increase Lin Muyu's defense, but it also allowed him to absorb a portion of the Acatosaurus's power for his own use. The Holy Dragon clan's recovery rate was said to be the best in the three realms. After armor transformation, Lin Muyu immediately felt his high become calm, and the injuries on his body were also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Again, this time, it was the joint attack of three celestial deities. An axe, a sword, and a spear, three weapons fell from the sky, each imbued with the divine power of a different law, and the three celestial deities all had very serious expressions. Although they were launching destructive attacks, there was actually a frozen smile on their faces, as if everything that was happening in front of them was natural, and it was impossible to defy. Hypocritical gods! Lin Muyu could not help but feel a chill in her heart. The people always believed in and provided for these celestial deities, but they did not know how dirty their hearts were under the hypocritical mask of the celestial deities. The more powerful a person was, the more his state of mind would become, and these celestial deities who had been worshipped for so many years really did not know how arrogant they were. In their hearts, the people were just ants that they could trample on at will, and at this time, these celestial deities probably also thought of Lin Muyu as one of those ants. Die! Lin Muyu's figure was almost untraceable like lightning. In an instant, she passed through the back of an celestial deity, and thrust the star's sword straight into his heart. The blade of the sword carried the celestial deity's body and hit the chest of another celestial deity. When he raised his spear, Lin Muyu's fist had already descended from the sky, two luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! Under the fist, the celestial deity's body immediately shattered, turning into strands of energy fragments. With another kick, the third celestial deity was killed. The wind whistled in the sky, and the celestial deities above the clouds seemed to be unable to hold back anymore. In the blink of an eye, 7 people jumped down, and Lin Muyu did not fear death. She lightly swung the star's sword, and her divine power was not released. Her emotions were surging, and she muttered to herself, "Shao Yin, if you are still alive, please bless me, let me break through all the difficulties to find you, kill." Kill! Kill! The so-called Mahayana world was just a massacre where the weak were prey to the strong. If Lin Muyu wanted to leave this place, she would have to kill all the fabricated illusions. This was a kind of test, and also a kind of expiation. However, after the golden blood of countless Empyrean deities landed on the blood-red dragon armor, the dragon armor almost turned into a set of golden armor. However, the slaughter did not stop. More and more Empyrean deities leaped down from the clouds. 10, 20, 50, 100 Empyrean deities perished under the astral sword. Lin Muyu's Yi began to become a bloody chaos, and there was only killing left. Being in someone else's domain, in the Mahayana world, Lin Muyu, the future supreme deity, seemed to have become the incarnation of the god of death. His only thought was to find Qin Yin, and in order to achieve this goal, it was worth giving up all of his beliefs. The divine power in his body was constantly being consumed, drained and overflowing and drained again. The dragon armor of Acatosaurus kept showing signs of being damaged by blades, but Acatosaurus endured it all without saying a word. The little dragon knew that its master needed it very much at this moment, and the pain in his body must be more painful than it was. Moreover, Acatosaurus seemed to faintly feel what Lin Muyu was looking for. He was looking for the girl who once caressed its head and called it, Little Apple. Kill! Puchi! The blade pierced through the head of the last celestial deity. When Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the star's sword, the body of the celestial deity immediately turned into wind, leaving behind only wisps of golden dust that scattered with the wind. Dang dang dang, the bell rang out from nowhere, and Lin Muyu listened to the sound in the sky. His heart was indescribably comfortable and peaceful. Holding the long sword in his hand, he stood in the air and closed his eyes. The supreme deity in his Yi was glowing, and it quickly absorbed the surrounding spiritual power to replenish the divine power that its master had lost. Hua hua hua, in the blink of an eye, the wind blew, and the ground in front of him gradually separated and dissipated. A huge black hole appeared, and it led straight to the last layer of the 12 Nether Springs worlds, the Nirvana world. Whoosh! In the Nirvana world, Dong Lin suddenly opened his eyes, and his heart trembled slightly. He actually passed the Mahayana world. This kid is really not simple. Chapter 705. Dragon-shaped island was the new capital of the Iha nation. The capital wasn't big, and it wasn't even as big as any of the main cities or counties in Lingnan. However, there was still a magnificent palace built in the center of the capital. However, this palace wasn't occupied by Qin Yi alone. At the same time, Man Ning, Ding Shi, and the other nobles also lived in this palace. Qin Yi knew that times were different now, so he naturally wouldn't be too calculative. In the north of the island, the sea breeze kicked up layers of waves, crashing against the barren reefs. A group of volunteer soldiers with bows and arrows sat on the reefs, chatting listlessly. Why would people come to this godforsaken dragon-shaped island? The Empire is busy fighting the demons, so where would they have the energy to care about us? Commander-in-Chief Long is really something, making us stand guard here. The sea breeze makes us look like dried corpses. That's right. We've been on dragon-shaped island for so many years, and we can only eat fish, prawns, and crabs. I really miss the days in Bailing City. There were things that flew in the sky, ran on the ground, and grew in the fields. There was nothing we couldn't eat. Look at us now, it's like heaven and earth. The young archer laid down on the reefs and put his bow to the side. He looked at the blue sky and white clouds and smiled. I heard that the Empire sent a general to negotiate peace a few years ago. He said that as long as Commander-in-Chief leads the Iha nation back to the Empire, he's willing to let bygones be bygones. Don't you think that Commander-in-Chief is really something? Why does he insist on suffering here? The old soldier couldn't help but frown. Shut up, how dare you say something like that? If the general hears you, you're dead. Let me tell you, We can continue to be soldiers in the Empire, eating rations and suppressing bandits, but what about Commander-in-Chief? He killed Qin Yin's father, Qin Jin. Do you think Qin Yin will let him off with this debt of blood? Even if Qin Yin is willing to write it off, her subordinates, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Xiang Yu, won't let this go. Besides, Commander-in-Chief long besieged Lanyan City and forced Chu Huayin to die for the Empire. With Chu Huayin and Lin Muyu's friendship, do you think that Lin Muyu will let Commander-in-Chief Long off? The young archer was stupefied. After a moment of silence, he said, "Could it be that we can only fight to the death?" Perhaps. When General Long and the great chief pass away and the hatred is resolved, it will be the day we return to the Empire. Sigh. Just as the two of them were sighing with emotion, a nearby sentry suddenly pointed into the distance and said, "Look, there's a warship on the sea." It's the demon clan? "Blow the horn, gather the troops and prepare for battle," a centurion shouted. Yes. The conch horn sounded, and in the blink of an eye, close to 1,000 soldiers had gathered. However, that was all. There weren't many troops on the island to begin with, not to mention that this was only a corner of the dragon-shaped island. The ballistae and stone cannons were all aimed into the distance. The sound of springs rang out continuously as they were already stretched taut, ready to deal a fatal blow to the distant warship at any time. Everyone's eyes were filled with nervousness. The Iha nation had not fought for 5 years, but now they were going to welcome the powerful Devil Clan. There were about 20 Devil Clan warships on the sea. From afar, they could even see the ugly appearance of the armor demon standing on the deck. However, at this moment, a person jumped off the warship and walked over on the waves. A sword hung on his waist, but it was not unsheathed. On his shoulder, there were a total of 4 golden general stars, indicating that he was a commander-level general. Instantly, the group of Iha nation soldiers were shocked. The person who came was none other than the first marshal of the Devil Clan, Qianfeng. Don't attack first. Aim. No one is allowed to shoot. A chilly arch squinted his eyes and said. Qianfeng floated over, stepping on the void and arriving in front of the stone sentry camp. He looked around and smiled. I didn't expect that, the Iha nation that once ruled half of the world would actually fall to such a state. I'm the Devil Clan's Marshal Qianfeng, and I've come by invitation. Where's your General Long? General Long? The Kiliarka's mouth opened and closed, and he spoke these 2 words dryly. This was the first time he saw the Devil Clan's high-ranking general. Moreover, it was said that the Devil Clan's most intelligent and courageous general, Qianfeng. The shock in his heart was self-evident. Qianfeng did not mind. He smiled faintly and said, "Someone who can speak, go and invite Long Qianlin." At this moment, the sound of horse hooves came from the mountain range of the island. In the blink of an eye, a row of Iha nation's armored cavalry galloped over. The leader was Long Qianlin, who was wearing golden armor. There were only about 100 people in this row of cavalry. It was no wonder. The warhorses on the dragon-shaped island were all brought from the mainland. There were very few of them and they were very precious. The entire Iha nation's cavalry now did not exceed 5,000 people. One could imagine how precious they were. Long Qianlin flipped over and dismounted from his horse. His face was full of smiles. "Greetings, Marshal Qianfeng. I didn't expect that we would actually meet here. I also didn't expect that we would meet again like this." Qianfeng smiled faintly and said, "We used to be enemies, but now we have become allies. Life is like a play, ha ha ha." After waiting for a while, Qianfeng's warships all reached the shore. He had brought more than 2,000 people with him. Most of them were high-level demons, and only a few were armor demons. After all, the intelligence of the armor demons was too low. Once they started to cause trouble, there was no way to control them. The high-level demons were much more reliable. Dragon-shaped island, Iha Nation's main hall. Qianfeng nodded to his subordinates. Immediately, a group of high-level demons presented their gifts and arranged them in a row. Qianfeng smiled and said, "Commander, please take a look. These are the gifts that Iha Nation has prepared for you. This is the legendary beast god sword, which can cut through iron like mud. This is the Dome Jasper Cup. There are only 2 of them in the whole world, and they are both here. This is the best Mabe cloud brocade, and this is the top-grade iron pear wood. There is a total of 50 kilograms of it, which can be used for carving. It emits a fragrance all year round and can prolong one's lifespan." Qin Yi sat on the throne with a pale face. He was already 61 years old, but in the short 5 years after Iha Nation's defeat, he seemed to have aged 10 years. Qin Yi's cultivation was not high, and he had not even stepped into the heaven realm. To Qin Yi, the most important thing was to prolong his lifespan. The longer he lived, the more he would have the chance to rule the Shattered Cauldron world again. "Thank you, Marshal Qianfeng, for your generous gifts. Iha Nation simply cannot repay you." "Don't mention it, Commander." Qianfeng had a carefree smile on his face. "The God race and Iha Nation have already formed an alliance, so there is no distinction between you and me. Qianfeng is already overwhelmed by the favor that Commander doesn't mind this small gift. Come, show Marshal Qianfeng a seat." "Yes." 2 attendants carried a carved wooden chair over, and Qianfeng gladly sat down. Ding Shi, Long Qianlin, and even the elderly man Ning were standing in the hall. Only Qianfeng and Qin Yi were sitting. It was obvious how noble they were. Ding Shi had also aged a lot. He was no longer as young as he used to be. He coughed and said, "Marshal Qianfeng, the empire is now powerful. The Longdan army camp led by the Qin Queen Lin Muyu boasts 200,000 soldiers. They also defeated the main force of your army in Tongtian province. Moreover, their magic crystal cannons are shockingly powerful. May I know how Marshal Qianfeng plans to cooperate with the Iha Nation and launch a counterattack against the empire?" "Good question, Commander Ding." Qianfeng smiled. "But, before that, I want to know how much strength the Iha Nation has left, and whether it can really help the God race eliminate the dragon's valiant army and reclaim its position as the ruler of the Shattered Cauldron realm." Qin Yi glanced at Ding Shi, indicating that he should speak. Ding Shi raised his eyebrows and said, "Although the Iha Nation is hibernating on the dragon-shaped island, it can still be said to have a strong army. We now have 2,000 warships, 60,000 cavalry, 250,000 infantry, 5,000 ballistae, 3,000 ballistae, and countless siege weapons. In addition, we have over 100 million rations, enough to feed 300,000 soldiers for 3 years. Oh." Qianfeng couldn't help but smile. He stood up and cupped his fists, saying, "In that case, this general will take his leave." Qin Yi hurriedly said, "Marshal Qianfeng, what do you mean by this?" Qianfeng smiled and said, "Since the Iha Nation has such a strong army, there's no need for our Protoss alliance at all. You can just kill your way to the Lingang province and destroy Feng Jixing's old nest and take back Lingnan." Qin Yi couldn't help but blush, saying, "Marshal must be joking, please tell me the truth. Tell me the true strength of the Iha Nation." Qianfeng's gaze was indifferent as he said, "Dragon-shaped island lacks provisions, equipment, medical care, etc. Who knows how many soldiers have died in the past few years? I've heard of all this. Marshal Ding Shi, only by being honest with each other can we discuss the alliance, right?" Ding Shi rubbed his nose and said, "Then tell me the truth. The Iha Nation still has 120,000 soldiers, 8,000 cavalry, and the rest are infantry and navy. Moreover, our iron ore is very insufficient, so most of the weapons have withered and can no longer be used. It's difficult to maintain new weapons and weapons. This is our main problem now." "Yes, that's right." Qianfeng smiled and turned to look at Qin Yi. He cupped his fists and said, "Chief, the god race already has a preliminary understanding of the origin of the magic crystal cannons. We can share this technology with the Iha nation. In addition, I will send cargo ships to transport a large number of weapons to the Iha nation. But you must also show your sincerity. What does the god race want the Iha nation to do?" Long Qianlin's gaze turned cold. "Once you get the weapons, rations, and warships, you must listen to my orders and attack the Winter Frost city of the Lingdong province from the coast. This will tie down the southern part of the valiant Dragon Legion. At that time, the god race will kill their way out of the Tongtian province and launch a large-scale counterattack. Once it's done, we will divide the world with the Qinling Mountains as the boundary." Qin Yi was moved. He stood up and said, "As Marshal Qianfeng wishes." "Good." Qianfeng nodded. "The alliance is signed. I hope that our two nations will put aside our past enmity and work together to completely destroy and erase the cruel empire from the continent." "Yes." A turbid current slowly spread out at the edge of the continent. The land was infinitely beautiful, and many heroes would risk their lives for it. Sunset City, a quiet night. Under the flickering candlelight, Feng Jixing held a military book and stared at the words on it. Suddenly, a cold wind blew open the door. Feng Jixing looked outside and saw a guard quickly closing the door. He said, "Your Highness, the night wind is too strong. Do you have the latest news about His Highness King Qin and Princess Tang Xiaoxi?" "Not yet." "Tell me immediately if you do." "Yes." Chapter 706. A flame pierced through the sky, as if it had opened a big hole in the sky. The roaring flames reverberated endlessly. Suddenly, a young figure walked out of the flames with a sword in his hand. He looked at all the illusions in the Nirvana world, looking for Qin Yin's figure. However, to Lin Muyu's disappointment, Qin Yin didn't seem to be here at all. On the ground, blood-colored cyclones rose up. Each blood-colored cyclone represented a serene spring. This was the real end of life. Anyone who fell into the serene spring, whether it was a mortal, a god, or a ghost, would be destroyed and turned into a wisp of dust in the world, with no possibility of resurrection. The cyclones formed a bright mirror, lying between heaven and earth. Suddenly, the mirror rippled, as if a door had opened, and a person walked out of the door. It was the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor. The world suddenly darkened, and all things in the Nirvana world surrendered to the Ghost Emperor. The Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor had dominated the serene spring for hundreds of thousands of years, and had long conquered everything here. Lin Muyu was slightly shocked. At this moment, he had an impulse to surrender to the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor. He couldn't help but panic in his heart. In front of the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor's divine power, he had a feeling that he couldn't act rashly. However, he deeply understood that this was an illusion of gaining the upper hand by a show of strength. It was the absolute coercive effect of the domain created by the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor. He took a deep breath, and the supreme divine power in his Yi began to surge. Suddenly, an invisible domain power rippled out with Lin Muyu as the core, contending against the domain condensed by Eastern Unicorn. This kid, the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor, was stunned, and he couldn't help but clench his fists, but the thin blood-colored runes around his fists were faintly glowing. It was the effect of sealing. Only God knew who suddenly launched an attack and sealed nearly 80% of the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor's power. Otherwise, he would have already killed Lin Muyu, the daring brat. No matter what, I must not let Lin Muyu run amok in the serene spring. Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor thought, I don't know which bastard sealed my power, but, even with only 20% of my power, I can still kill Lin Muyu, just wait and see. As a matter of fact, the East Unicorn Ghost Monarch had already guessed that it was the Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor's doing, but there was no need for him to be afraid of the Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor, as the Quiet Spring was a world that had transcended the three realms. Nothing that happened in the Quiet Spring would be known to the outside world. As long as he killed Lin Muyu here, he could easily push the blame of his death onto the 12 worlds, and it would have nothing to do with him. Therefore, when Lin Muyu entered the Quiet Spring, the East Unicorn Ghost Monarch was already determined to kill him. Lin Muyu's entire body was bathed in flames, and the divine flame lingered around his body. He even maintained the state of fusion armor. Step by step, each step stirred up a flame ripple in the void, and even the Nirvana world trembled slightly. In the confrontation between the two gods, at least in terms of momentum, Lin Muyu didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Back then, when Qin Jin, Zhen Yifan, and the others discussed, they praised Lin Muyu as a mad general. It was conceivable that this kid was fearless, and there was a fanaticism in the depths of his heart. Once he decided on a path, he would unswervingly walk on it, even if he was covered with cuts and bruises. It was this fanaticism that supported him to live to this day, so much so that he could compete with the Supreme Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor in terms of momentum and domain. You are the Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor? Lin Muyu stood in the air and asked lightly. That's right. Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor couldn't help but feel annoyed and disgusted. No one had ever spoken to him like this in his territory. Even the 5 Ghost Emperors and Sobbing Blood Ghost Emperor had to be polite to him. Who was this kid to dare to speak to him like this? Thinking of this, Dong Lin's voice was filled with anger. Lin Muyu, you trespassed into the Nether Spring world. Do you know that you're courting death? Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor is protecting you? I know that I'm courting death. Lin Muyu's reply made Dong Lin's jaw drop. He looked at Dong Lin coldly and said, but, the Ghost General from the upper realm said that you sent Xiaoyin's spiritual body into the Nether Spring, so I had no choice but to come. Where is Xiaoyin? You're talking about Qin Yin? Ha ha ha. She's not even in the Nether Spring. Nonsense. You don't believe me? Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor raised his hand and waved. The bright mirror beneath him instantly dissipated, revealing the barren ground and the 9 springs in the distance. He said, look for yourself. This is the true face of the Nether Spring world. There are a total of 9 springs, and they are all here. You're a god, so with your insight, you should be able to sense the aura of the Nirvana world. Can you sense a trace of the aura left behind by Qin Yin? After hearing Dong Lin's words, Lin Muyu suddenly realized something. Indeed, she had been too concerned and neglected this point. The aura left behind by a god couldn't be covered up by wind, sun, and rain. If Qin Yin had been here before, the divine aura she left behind would be preserved for at least a few months. But from the day Lin Muyu entered the Nether Spring world, when she thought about it carefully, she really didn't sense the aura of Qin Yin at all. Could it be? Could it be? His body trembled, and he couldn't help but feel ecstatic. He held the star's sword and looked down at the vast land. Suddenly, he laughed wildly. Xiaoyin didn't die. Xiaoyin didn't die, ha ha ha. Great, great. Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor sneered, I think. You'd better worry about yourself. Do you know why I told you the news that Qin Yin didn't die? Why? Lin Muyu calmed down again, and a trace of sharpness flashed across her eyes. She knew things wouldn't be so simple. Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor laughed loudly. He suddenly opened his palm, and instantly, a blood-red ancient book appeared. His 5 fingers gently flipped, and the pages of the book flipped rapidly. Each page was filled with blood-red words, and a powerful force enshrouded the pages. This book must not be an ordinary book, but the weapon of Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor. I want you to be buried in the Nether Spring in place of Qin Yin, and I want your sovereign godhead. Eastern Unicorn Ghost Emperor's eyes were filled with raging flames. If losing Qin Yin's sovereign godhead was a kind of regret, then Lin Muyu entering the Nether Spring world was a kind of double blessing. It was a pity that one of the rulers of the divine world, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor, used a super long-range god-vanquishing curse to seal most of Eastern Unicorn's power. Otherwise, this reckless kid, Lin Muyu, would definitely be buried here. At this moment, Lin Muyu's heart was filled with lingering fear. She was too afraid that Qin Yin would be annihilated in the Nether Spring, so she jumped into the Nether Spring without thinking about the consequences. Was there any use in lingering fear now? Unbeknownst to her, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor was currently standing in the spiritual mountain of the divine world, overlooking the vast ghost domain. He couldn't see Lin Muyu's position, so he could only murmur, "This is the only way, you. Everything depends on you now." Xiao, who was standing at the side, suddenly smiled. "What are you laughing at?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor turned to look at her. Xiao laughed so hard that she was trembling, and said, "Demon Emperor, have you forgotten what you said a month ago when you first entered the ghost domain?" "What did I say?" The Demon Emperor was at a loss. Xiao was still laughing so hard that her stomach hurt. She said, "You said to the illusion of you in the heavenly lake, 'Don't worry and act cool, there will be an aerial gunship to cover you.' What's wrong, is your aerial gunship giving up now?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor couldn't help but laugh as well. He looked at the dense fog in the lower realm, and said, "Times have changed, what happens next will depend on you's luck. Although I used the soul-vanquishing curse to seal more than 70% of you's godly power, he is still a God Emperor level ghostly immortal who has seen through the 99 heavens. If you makes the slightest mistake, he will still be killed." Xiao became serious, and said, "Don't worry, you won't be killed that easily. His ability to respond in battle is probably better than both of us. Otherwise, he would have died 100 times over. Don't forget, a few years ago, your aerial gunship didn't help him, but he killed his way out of the carnage by himself." "You're right." The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor stretched his arms, and said, "You has his own heavenly Tao. As long as he follows this path, he will definitely be able to establish his own sect. My worries are unnecessary." As he said that, a cold light flashed past his eyes, and he said, "If Ghost Emperor Dong Lin is sensible, he will naturally not kill you. Otherwise, I will definitely make Dong Lin, this bastard, unable to even be a ghostly immortal." Xiao was slightly startled. The last time she saw the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor reveal this kind of killing intent, the 3 God Emperors of the South Heaven Realm perished together. "Why, are you afraid?" Ghost Emperor Dong Lin suddenly sneered. "What did you say?" The star's sword in Lin Muyu's hand began to be enshrouded in raging flames. Although Lin Muyu was proficient in the 12 laws, he was still truly proficient in the fire law. After all, most of his proud skills were related to flames, such as purple sun descending to earth, dragon flame spiral break, and so on. Moreover, the fire law was overbearing and vigorous, and it was the strongest attack among the 12 laws. When facing an opponent stronger than himself, the fire law was undoubtedly the first choice. Looking at the gloomy book in the hands of Ghost Emperor Dong Lin, Lin Muyu said, "This book of yours looks pretty good." "Is that so?" Ghost Emperor Dong Lin grinned. "This book is called Nether Spring Ghost Book. I found it after entering the Nether Spring for the first time. The Nether Spring Ghost Book contains the power of extreme Yin and softness, and you will die under the profound energy of this Nether Spring Ghost Book. Then I have to give it a try." Lin Muyu bent her body slightly, and her strength had been raised to the extreme. The flames on the blade roared, and she stepped on the wall of the void. Her whole body actually had a kind of imposing manner, and she rushed down. The long sword contained a vast divine power, and it was a fierce strike towards Ghost Emperor Dong Lin. Strike first to gain the upper hand, and strike later to be controlled by the opponent. Chapter 707. Roar. When East Unicorn Ghost Emperor waved his arm, there was a faint roar of a holy beast. The scales on his arm stood up and transformed into an iron arm covered with holy beast armor. Was he going to block Lin Muyu's crazy attack with his flesh and blood? Bang! Flame splashed in all directions, and Lin Muyu's arms were numb from the impact. The power that came from the East Unicorn Ghost Thearch's iron arm was not ordinary, but what surprised him was that the East Unicorn Ghost Thearch also took a few steps back. It seemed like the East Unicorn Ghost Thearch's power wasn't as strong as he imagined, at least not as terrifying as the god Thearch's cultivation. The second attack came in an instant. Lin Muyu's figure flashed like lightning, carrying the vast frost divine power. It was the jade snow frost of the star art. Hiss! The surrounding air seemed to have solidified, and East Unicorn Ghost Emperor, who bore the brunt of the attack, naturally had it worse. His whole body was covered with a thick layer of frost. He was actually frozen by Lin Muyu's attack. Good chance. Lin Muyu raised her arm abruptly, and her sharp sword turned into a fiery light as it shot forward. With the increase in her cultivation, Lin Muyu only needed a second to condense the dragon flame spiral break. Her stellar sword turned into a blazing flame as it shot towards Dong Lin's heart. However, at this moment, the Nether Spring Ghost Book in East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's hand suddenly flipped. Azure light shone endlessly, and the frost on his body broke apart. The moment he broke out of the ice, he saw the star's sword flying towards him. He directly opened his palm that was covered in green scales and grabbed the blade of the sword. He growled, "You want to kill this emperor with just you?" Clang, 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 the flying blade slashed on the scales on his finger, and sparks constantly sputtered. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor suddenly clenched his fist and forcibly grabbed the blade. But at this moment, a strong wind came from his waist. It was Lin Muyu's sudden attack. The mighty fist wind, carrying the 7 luminaries' profound energy, blasted on the waist of East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. Chaos of all life. Bang! The fist was overbearing and powerful, but it seemed to not cause too much damage to East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. Instead, East Unicorn raised his palm and fell towards Lin Muyu's back. Ghost Emperor's unique skill, heaven-devouring green Qilin. However, the speed at which Dong Lin's palm was descending was obviously much slower than she had imagined. This was the result of being hit by the soul-vanquishing curse. It was also this delay of almost 0.1 seconds that allowed Lin Muyu to escape the calamity. She dodged the attack but didn't leave. Instead, she flew around Dong Lin Ghost Emperor like a gust of wind. She grabbed the hilt of the star's sword and pulled it outwards. Using the momentum, she rapidly approached Dong Lin Ghost Emperor. Her knee was filled with supreme divine power as she struck Dong Lin Ghost Emperor's chin with her knee. Bastard! East Unicorn Ghost Emperor was one of the overlords of the ghost domain. He had always relied on his strength to speak. If they were to exchange blows, then they would exchange blows. It was fair and square to see who could kill who with the stronger move. When had he ever participated in such a close combat between God Realm experts? And this Lin Muyu in front of him was fighting completely shamelessly, without the slightest dignity of a supreme god. Bang! Lin Muyu hit East Unicorn's chin with her knee, but his chin was also covered by green Qilin scales. Instead, it was Lin Muyu's knee that felt intense pain. Get lost! East Unicorn Ghost Emperor roared, and his fist landed on the dragon blood shield on Lin Muyu's arm. Bang! With just a single strike, Lin Muyu fell to the barren ground like a cannonball, smashing into the sky with a cloud of dust. Amidst the coughing sounds, he struggled to stand up from the deep pit with the help of his longsword. He actually coughed out blood. His arm was still pulsing with the impact of East Unicorn Ghost Thearch's 99 ghostly chi waves. The god Thearch was indeed powerful. Just one punch was enough to injure him. Die! East Unicorn Ghost Emperor held the Nether Spring Ghost Book in his right hand, and formed a fist with his left hand. He descended from the sky with a vast divine power, and went straight for Lin Muyu. I can't fight him head-on, I can only dodge. Lin Muyu's feet shook, and she flashed past with falling star step. She was a ruler, and her movement on the ground was just enough to lure the Ghost Emperor to the ground. Seeing Lin Muyu's ingenious footwork leaving, East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's fist directly landed on the ground, and a huge pit was blasted out with a loud bang. However, his arms suddenly felt cold, and Lin Muyu grabbed his wrist. Taking advantage of the fact that the power of the fist hadn't been completely used up, Lin Muyu threw East Unicorn Ghost Emperor out with force. Boom! East Unicorn never expected that he would be hit like this. His entire body was smashed into the soil that had been decaying for hundreds of thousands of years, and his face was bruised and swollen. It was a complete mess, and when he turned around angrily, he saw the blazing sun in Lin Muyu's palm. Oh no! East Unicorn Ghost Emperor could naturally feel the biting cold energy of the purple sun falling to the ground, and he didn't say much. He opened his palm, and the Nether Spring Ghost Book flipped rapidly, absorbing the power of the ghosts within, and roared, Nether Curse. A faint purple circular array was held in East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's palm, and it flew towards the purple sun. Pang! It was like a nuclear explosion, and it exploded with the two of them at the center. The purple sun falling to the ground actually didn't gain any advantage against the secret technique of the Nether Spring Ghost Book. Lin Muyu's left arm was blasted into a bloody mess, and her injuries weren't light. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor also took a few steps back. He had never experienced such a desperate attack before. Swish! A wind swept past, and East Unicorn Ghost Emperor felt his left hand being grabbed by someone. It was this kid again, and his speed was too fast. An irresistible force came from his arm, and East Unicorn Ghost Emperor actually couldn't control his body. His body suddenly spun, and he was smashed heavily into the ruins. Shoulder throw. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's face was covered in dirt, and he roared with open arms. God power instantly exploded out. Since he wasn't a match for Lin Muyu in close combat, then he might as well use absolute strength to crush this kid. It was a pity that East Unicorn Ghost Emperor was hit by the spirit vanquishing curse, and he only had 20% of his god power left. Even if he was stronger than Lin Muyu, he wasn't much stronger. But it just so happened that Lin Muyu was like a fish in water when she landed on the ground. At this moment, Lin Muyu's emotions seemed to be boiling, and she had completely entered the realm of close combat. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor wasn't familiar with close combat, and this would become his weakness today. Rustle, rustle, a blood-red rope suddenly swept out from the ground, and firmly tied East Unicorn Ghost Emperor up. It was the spirit-binding rope, the treasure of Sobbing Blood Ghost Emperor. This, East Unicorn was dumbfounded, isn't this the treasure of Sobbing Blood Ghost? Why is it in your hands? Don't worry about it. Lin Muyu passed by, and a fist with the 5 elements 8 Desolation Annihilation landed on East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's abdomen. Pang! The punch made East Unicorn Ghost Emperor dizzy, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Lin Muyu continued to attack, and with the help of the spirit-binding rope, she kept attacking East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. Straight punch. Swing punch. Uppercut. Whip kick. Side kick. Downward chop. Shoulder throw. Reverse back throw. Connecting leg throw. By the time Lin Muyu finished a set of boxing moves, East Unicorn Ghost Emperor was already on the verge of death. Although Lin Muyu's moves looked simple, every move contained the divine wave of the 20th Heaven Grotto Heaven, and East Unicorn Ghost Emperor didn't even have the strength to fight back. Rustle, rustle, East Unicorn lay on the ground, and the scales on the surface of his skin were even starting to crumble. This was the result of his defense collapsing. I want you to die, Dong Unicorn roared, and his 5 fingers opened up rapidly. A green cyclone danced wildly. Finally, this Ghost Emperor was going to use his trump card. But Lin Muyu didn't give East Unicorn Ghost Emperor any chance to fight back. She suddenly spun around, and the sky suddenly darkened. Stars fell into her palm, and shockingly, it was the powerful and unyielding 7th element. "Stop resisting immediately," Lin Muyu said indifferently. "Dream on," Dong Unicorn shouted. He had never been humiliated like this before. "Then don't regret it," Lin Muyu shouted, and a palm shot out from above, 7-element stars transformation. Countless stars fell down like meteors, bombarding Dong Lin's protective astral energy in a chaotic manner. In just an instant, the astral energy was pierced through, and in the next moment, the densely packed stars bombarded Dong Lin's body. Peng, 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 the entire netherworld world trembled, and countless stars fell from the sky, as if they were going to destroy this nirvana world. Peng. Outside the spring, a group of abyssal prefects and ghost generals were standing guard. All of a sudden, a loud explosion rang out from the spring. Purple spring water shot up into the sky, accompanied by streaks of stars. The stars pierced through the plane and crashed into the 18th level of hell, shattering it in the blink of an eye. The newly repaired wall of the plane had to be repaired again. What? The group of official lords was dumbfounded. Could it be that this is the aftermath of that brat Lin Muyu's attack in the Netherworld Spring? Who knows, but His Majesty the Ghost Emperor will definitely kill that brat. There's no doubt about that. Ghost Emperor Dong Unicorn is invincible in the ghost domain. Ga. At this moment, the gloomy Ghost Emperor Dong Unicorn was lying on the desolate ground of the Nirvana world. His body was bombarded into a sieve by the 7 glorious stars transformation. If it wasn't for the Ghost Emperor's body, he would have been turned into ashes. Lin Muyu wasn't any better. Not to mention the backlash of the 7 glorious stars transformation, every attack of his would be automatically countered by Ghost Emperor Dong Unicorn's 99 heavenly abode waves. In fact, his injuries were no less than Dong Unicorn's. But he couldn't be weak. If Dong Unicorn saw through his lack of divine power, it would be terrible. The backlash of the 7 glorious stars transformation would last for 10 minutes, and these 10 minutes were too important for Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu grabbed Ghost Emperor Dong Unicorn's armor collar, lifted him like a little chick, and flew to the top of a netherworld spring. Lin Muyu acted like he was going to throw him down. "Let's talk this out." Ghost Emperor Dong Unicorn's voice was actually a bit resentful. "You didn't mention any conditions and just killed me like this. Isn't this against the rules of the pugilistic world? So you're also afraid of death?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "If you want to live, then bring me away from the netherworld spring." "Sure. There's one more condition." "What condition?" Lin Muyu's gaze landed on the Netherworld Ghost Book in Dong Unicorn's arms. This definitely won't do. The Netherworld Ghost Book is the treasure of the Netherworld Spring. I can't give it to you. Lin Muyu didn't say anything and just loosened her pinky and ring fingers. "Let's talk this out, don't fight and kill so easily. Seriously, you have such a bad temper. Actually, it's not that I can't give the Netherworld Ghost Book to someone, but you have to promise me something." "Say it." "You can't mention anything that happened in the Netherworld Spring to anyone. This is a gentleman's agreement between us. If you promise, the Netherworld Ghost Book is yours." "Okay, I promise you." Lin Muyu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Since Ghost Emperor Dong Unicorn was willing to mention this condition, it meant that she was really safe. Chapter 708. Gurgle, gurgle, bubbles suddenly appeared on the mirror-like nether spring. In the blink of an eye, it turned blood red. Accompanied by the ripples of the bubbles, a passage appeared as if the water surface was cut open. Two figures walked out one after another. The one in front was East Unicorn Ghost Emperor, and the one behind was Lin Muyu. Immediately, the group of official lords and ghost dragon leaders were dumbfounded. Lin Muyu was still alive. This was unbelievable. What made East Unicorn Ghost Emperor show such kindness? Greetings, Your Majesty. The official lords knelt together, which was equivalent to kneeling to Lin Muyu, who was beside East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. An official lord raised his head and asked in confusion, Your Majesty, Lin Muyu trespassed into the Nether Spring and disturbed the rules of the three realms. Why did Your Majesty let him go? East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's face was enshrouded in a faint light. This was a kind of concealment technique. Without this light, East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's beaten face would be seen. Moreover, he silently circulated his strength and found that although the seal on the divine power in his body had been partially unlocked, he still couldn't use most of his power. With his current power, he still wasn't confident of winning against Lin Muyu. Therefore, he took a deep breath and said with bright eyes, Lin Muyu broke through the 12 worlds of the Nether Spring and saw through the mortal world. I am very appreciative of him, so I decided to exempt him this time. You don't have to ask anymore. How can a genius like him be killed? He should be nurtured for the benefit of the three realms. On the side, Lin Muyu lowered her voice and said, Send me out of the ghost realm. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor gritted his teeth in hatred, but there was nothing he could do. He could only say in a clear voice, I will send him out of the ghost realm now. You all still need to guard the Nether Spring here. Do not be negligent, understand? Yes, Your Majesty. East Unicorn looked at Lin Muyu, and the two flew up side by side and went straight to the world above. While flying, East Unicorn said in a low voice, Lin Muyu, don't go too far. At least give me face in front of my subordinates. This is our agreement, isn't it? Haven't I already given you enough face? Lin Muyu placed his hands behind his back and lazily let out a sigh of relief. After knowing that Qin Yin had reincarnated once again, his mood was indescribably good. As long as Qin Yin was still alive, he could wait for thousands of years. He was only afraid that Qin Yin's spirit would vanish into thin air and he would never be able to find her again. Is this considered giving enough face? East Unicorn Ghost Emperor continued to express his dissatisfaction. You didn't even kneel down to me. Don't forget that I'm the supreme being of the ghost realm. You're just a scattered god. What right do you have to be on equal footing with me? Lin Muyu raised her brows and said bluntly, a loser wants me to kneel before you? Dream on. Dong Lin, if I really don't give you face, I'll immediately hire 10,000 storytellers to divide the story of your defeat into 24 chapters and 48 sections. Then, I'll narrate it on the bridge for 3 days and 3 nights, letting everyone in the three realms know of your glorious deeds. Damn, aren't you too ruthless? East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's heart skipped a beat. If that was really the case, his reputation would be ruined. How could he still have the face to be one of the three supreme beings of the ghost realm in the future? Lin Muyu was slightly proud of herself. This time, she had finally grabbed Dong Lin's weak point. This guy was willing to suffer for his reputation. As long as she had this weakness, she wouldn't have to be afraid of him for the rest of her life. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu continued leisurely, but don't worry. After I return to the Shattered Cauldron realm, although I will tell some people that I defeated you, they will definitely keep their mouths shut. But you have to remember, if you continue to be overbearing, this matter will definitely spread throughout the three realms. You. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor was like a deflated balloon. He lost his temper and said, then what do you want? You have to take good care of everyone who passed away in the Shattered Cauldron Realm Empire. Don't let them enter the 18 levels of hell. Don't let them enter the Nether Spring or the Soul Refining Pool. Do you understand? Got it. You're really troublesome. Dong Lin said coldly. Anyway, it's fine as long as you understand. Lin Muyu smiled secretly. She saw East Unicorn Ghost Emperor with his hands behind his back. After a sharp scream, he actually pierced through the sky. A blood-colored passageway went straight to the surface of the Yellow Springs. It was like a VIP passageway for Ghost Emperors. The two of them walked out in a line and easily passed through the 18 levels of hell. Greetings, Your Majesty East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. Around them, thousands of ghost generals and ghost soldiers knelt together. Even Mengpa knelt down politely. This old one greets Your Majesty Ghost Emperor. Dong Lin's expression was calm. He said, Mengpa, on the Wheel of Time, how long until the plain entrance to the Shattered Cauldron Realm opens? Mengpa counted with her fingers. In an hour, it will be midnight in the Shattered Cauldron Realm. At that time, the Ghost Gate will naturally open. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu, I will send you here. I hope that you will behave yourself in the future. Don't forget our agreement. Do you understand? Thank you, Your Majesty Ghost Emperor Dong Lin. This time, Lin Muyu took 2 steps back and bowed with cupped fists. She was very respectful. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor couldn't help but feel proud. Although this kid had the disposition of a paragon, he seemed to be quite polite. He was really a promising talent. Not long after, East Unicorn Ghost Emperor's body sank into the ground. Under Meng Po's lead, Lin Muyu came to the entrance of a nest in the swamp. If she wanted to return to the Shattered Cauldron Realm, she had to pass through this place at a specific time. Otherwise, she would probably have to leap to another plane. Actually, Lin Muyu could also pass through space. However, this was the ghost domain. It was too far away from the mortal world. If she made a mistake, she would fly into another space. Time couldn't be wasted, so it was better not to waste time. 1 hour was neither long nor short. Mengpa, who was at the side, wanted to say something but stopped herself. She looked like she wanted to chat about family matters, but Lin Muyu was really not interested. She held the star's sword and stood there arrogantly. Humph, brat, what are you being arrogant for? You're just like that Tang Xiaoxi. I'm so angry. Mengpa muttered softly. Lin Muyu's hearing was very strong. Naturally, she heard every word. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, Mengpa, what did you say? Tang Xiaoxi also came to the ghost domain? Yes, what do you think? Mengpa said angrily, that damned girl killed hundreds of ghost soldiers on the surface of the underworld and made a mess in the 18 levels of hell. Finally, she rescued Qin Yin's soul from the soul refining pool and sent it into the reincarnation well. Humph. I really don't know what the 5 ghost emperors were thinking. They let this damned girl leave the ghost domain alive. It's so unbelievable. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. He had been going back and forth in the ghost domain, but he didn't know that Tang Xiaoxi had done such a big thing in the ghost domain. It seemed that it was all thanks to Tang Xiaoxi. Otherwise, Qin Yin wouldn't have been reincarnated so easily. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Men couldn't understand the friendship between women, just like women couldn't understand the affection between men. Tang Xiaoxi killed her way into the ghost domain to save Qin Yin. It could be considered that she had repaid the debt of killing Qin Yin in Bai Ling City when her mind was controlled by Yaoji. The ghost domain is so dangerous. Why did she sneak in alone? Lin Muyu frowned and said softly, what a silly girl. Mengpa slammed her fist on the ground, causing the surroundings to tremble. She said indifferently, can you not be so lovey-dovey in front of me? What I hate the most is the harmony between the zither and the harp. It's so disgusting that I have goosebumps all over my body. Lin Muyu glanced at her and said, that's right. With your honor, I don't think you can survive in this world where looks are the most important. What did you say? You don't want to go back to the broken cauldron world? Meng Po's voice became cold. Lin Muyu hurriedly smiled and said, "Io, Sister Mengpo, what are you talking about? Actually, when it comes to women, we have to look at their temperament. Some women don't have beauty, but their charm are engraved in their bones. Just like you." "Really?" Meng Po's heart thumped as she winked. Lin Muyu covered her mouth to stop herself from vomiting. She nodded repeatedly, "Yes, yes, yes, why hasn't this bastard opened the ghost gate yet? It's about to open. Little sweetheart, don't be in such a hurry, motherf asterisk cur." Lin Muyu cursed in her heart. 10 miles southeast of Heaven Connect City, in the mass grave. The cold wind swept across the land. The mass grave was already covered in a thick layer of snow. Although it was snowing heavily, one could still vaguely see the flickering light of torches. A group of generals wearing the leather robes of the empire stood guard here. Under a towering poplar tree, Tang Xiaoxi stood there quietly. Snowflakes fell on her cheeks and eyelashes, melting rapidly. The snow grew heavier and heavier, but Tang Xiaoxi remained unmoved. It had already been half a month since she left the ghost domain, but Lin Muyu had yet to return. This proved that Lin Muyu had already been in the Nether Spring for more than half a month. Rustle, Wei Chou walked over with Situ Sun, Situ Shui, and Bai Yin. He cupped his fists and said, "Princess Shi, it's snowing so heavily tonight. Why don't you stop waiting? It'll be bad if you get sick from the cold. We'll stay here and wait for His Highness King Qin." "No, I'm not going back." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. She felt that it was a little rude to say this, so she added, "I won't know what to do if I go back and face an empty courtyard alone. Duke Wei, you don't have to worry about me. I won't get sick from the cold." "Then, all right." Wei Chou nodded and didn't say anything else. Not long after, there was a sudden crack in the snow. A flash of lightning flashed, and the plane's wall was torn open. Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly looked over. She saw a figure shuttling out. It was Ouyang Yen, who was wearing a pure white fur robe. She pursed her lips and smiled apologetically, "I'm sorry to have surprised everyone for nothing. I'm here to wait for Her Highness Lin Muyu." Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but feel very disappointed. She really wanted to beat her up. But before Tang Xiaoxi could dispel this idea, there was suddenly another flash of lightning behind Ouyang Yen, and a handsome figure flew out. The powerful impact of penetrating the wall of the plane made him involuntarily lean forward a few steps, and with a pa sound, he knocked Ouyang Yen to the ground. Lin Muyu said blankly, "It's snowing. It's so cold, why are there so many people? Xiao Shi, you're here too. Who did I knock into just now?" Tang Xiaoxi suppressed the excitement in her heart. She was so happy that she almost cried. It was great to see him come back alive. Ouch! On the snowy ground, Ouyang Yen held her perky butt and slowly stood up. She said, "Your Highness, you used too much force, and the angle was wrong. You really are a virgin who doesn't know anything. Pure young body, no wonder you're so good at cultivation." Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Wei Chou. Chapter 709. Everyone is here? Lin Muyu brushed off the snow on his shoulders and said with a smile. He was still wearing autumn clothes, but it was already winter. "Come." Situ Shui was meticulous. She took a leather robe embroidered with golden purple flowers from the servant and handed it to Lin Muyu. She said with a smile, "Madam, put it on. It's winter again this year. Although you are a God-state cultivator, you still need clothes to keep out the cold." "Thank you, Shui." Lin Muyu accepted it gladly. She turned around and put on the robe. It was indeed much warmer. Everyone stood in the same place happily. Only Tang Xiaoxi stood alone in the snow. She still didn't know how to face Lin Muyu, and the knot in Lin Muyu's heart had not been untied. But it was different this time. Let's go back to Heaven Connect City. Lin Muyu touched her stomach and said, I haven't had a good meal in the ghost domain for almost a month. Shouldn't you have prepared delicious food to entertain me? Wei Chou chuckled, Your Highness, rest assured. Every night at midnight, General Shui ordered the Spiritual Fire Department to prepare a table of good dishes. It's just that Your Highness didn't come back until today. That table of good dishes has been taken advantage of by us. Let's go. Lin Muyu walked straight out of the forest. When she passed by Tang Xiaoxi, she inadvertently held her hand and whispered, Why are you still in a daze? Let's go back and eat something delicious. Oh. Tang Xiaoxi was happy and puzzled. She let Lin Muyu hold her hand. The scenery of the ghost domain is not bad, right? Lin Muyu suddenly asked. It's alright, how is Xiaoyin now? Tang Xiaoxi hesitated for a moment and said, She asked me to tell you that you have to take good care of yourself and wait for her to come back. Mumu, you don't blame me? Lin Muyu turned around and smiled. She looked straight at her and said, Yang Yan told me that you were bewitched by Yaoji and killed Xiaoyin. I don't blame you. Now that you have saved Xiaoyin's life, I can't thank you enough. Now, you are still Tang Xiaoxi and I am still Lin Muyu. Let's wait for Xiaoyin to come back. Before she comes back, we have to work together to protect this family. Yes. A smile appeared on Tang Xiaoxi's face. A huge stone had finally been lifted from her heart. This was the first time she had smiled so happily since she had returned from the devil race. Lin Muyu squeezed her hand tightly. All this while, Tang Xiaoxi had been under a lot of pressure. How could he not know that? In fact, Tang Xiaoxi's life was even more difficult than his. Now that there was finally hope, he hoped that everything could return to the good old days. What is Xiaoyin's next reincarnation? Lin Muyu mounted the horse and asked. Tang Xiaoxi rode another white horse and said, Azura Path. Azura Path? Yes. What is Azura? Hunters who walk in the three realms. They are neither human nor ghost nor god. The 5 ghost emperors said that Azura is good and bad. They are born to hunt. I see. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, What comes after the Azura Path? The last reincarnation, the Heavenly Tao. As long as Xiaoyin survives the Heavenly Tao, she'll be able to form a true body of flesh and blood and return to the 3 realms. Tang Xiaoxi was moved. But the 5 ghost emperors also said that Xiaoyin will forget the past, whether it's the Azura Path or the Heavenly Tao. This is her own cultivation, and no one else can control it. I understand. Lin Muyu clenched his fists. All these years, he'd been forced to do things against his will. Although he had the disposition of a supreme being, there were too many things he couldn't control. This was probably fate. Some things were destined to go with the flow, and couldn't be forced. Skyspan City, King Qin's mansion. It was brightly lit and bustling. Almost all the commanders and captaincy generals in the Longdan army camp were present. Even the administrative officials of Skyspan Province and Lingdong Province were gathered to celebrate the return of Lin Muyu, the king of Qin. Lin Muyu didn't drink. He only ate meat. He was one person short of eating a deer. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao just watched him eat with smiles on their faces. This was also a form of enjoyment for them. Xiao Shi, I brought you a gift. Oh, what is it? Lin Muyu took out a book from her cosmos sack with a swoosh. It was a black ancient book, and its surface was enshrouded with a faint ghostly aura. Lin Muyu moved her fingers lightly, and the pages of the book flipped open. The azure blue light was dense, and immediately, a chill spread out in the originally warm and harmonious main hall. Everyone looked over at the same time, and they were all dumbfounded. What is this? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Lin Muyu said, "This is the Ghost Book of Nether Springs. I got it from the Ghost Emperor of East Unicorn. It's an extremely and soft magic tool, and also a type of weapon. However, my physique isn't suitable for using this book, so take a look. If you like it, I'll give it to you. As long as you use it properly, the Ghost Book of Nether Springs can greatly increase your strength." Tang Xiaoxi reached out and touched the pages of the book. Immediately, a powerful yin qi surrounded her palm. She couldn't help but cry out in surprise. She immediately transformed into her nine-tailed form. With a swish, raging flames flew up, and a pair of golden eyes stared at the Ghost Book of Nether Springs. Tang Xiaoxi's fingers were wrapped in raging flames, and she resisted the yin qi in the book. Could something have happened? Chu Yao was forced back several meters, and she looked on worriedly. No. Lin Muyu shook her head, and said confidently, "This is Shao Shi and the Ghost Book of Nether Springs communicating." Oh? Chu Yao was doubtful. Tang Xiaoxi looked like she was about to fight. How could there be such a communication? But in reality, Tang Xiaoxi was indeed communicating with the Ghost Book of Nether Springs with a kind of power. This was a process of recognizing its master. If Tang Xiaoxi's godly power wasn't enough to make the Ghost Book of Nether Springs submit, then she would lose the right to use the book. As a result, the raging flames became more and more biting cold. Even a fiery red spirit pearl of law danced around Tang Xiaoxi's body. She actually took out a spirit pearl of law. Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. After not seeing her for a long time, Tang Xiaoxi's strength seemed to have increased a lot. Ouyang Yan and Chu Chu both said that only the first 3 grades of Godhead could condense Spirit Pearl of Law. It seemed like Tang Xiaoxi's Godhead had already broken through to the caste Immortal Godhead. Finally, after about 10 minutes, the light of the Ghost Book of Nether Springs began to dim. Small beads of sweat appeared on Tang Xiaoxi's forehead. She quickly closed the Ghost Book of Nether Springs and put it into the spatial bag at her waist. She said with a smile, "Thank you, Mu, I like this gift very much. It's good that you like it." Lin Muyu sat down again as if nothing had happened. Wei Chou, Chu Yao, Situ Sun, and the others were a little speechless. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation was far beyond their reach. These two freakishly strong fellows' casual words perhaps represented a realm that they would never be able to reach in their entire lives. At this time, Chu Yao said softly, "Half a month ago, Lanyan City sent a letter saying that they found a descendant of the Seven Seas Tang sect. That person's name is Tang Zong, the illegitimate son of the Seven Seas King, Tang Lan's second son, Tang Jing. He is Tang Bin and Tang Lu's half-brother, and will be conferred the title of Northern Duke in 5 days. Yan and Suyu wrote that if you can make it, it's best if you bring Shaoxi back to Lanyan City to participate in the conferring ceremony. After all, as the king of Qin, you should be present." So, Big Brother Feng will also return to Lanyan City in 5 days? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Chu Yao nodded vigorously. "That's great, I also happen to have a gift for him," Lin Muyu said excitedly. But Chu Yao's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. Lin Muyu saw it clearly and hurriedly said with a smile, "Big sister Chu Yao, I risked my life this time because I really don't have time to go shopping and buy gifts for you because most of the gifts I brought back are bloody." "I believe you don't want them either," Chu Yao chuckled. "I'm very happy that you have this kind of heart. By the way, where's Grandpa Chu Chu? He went into the mountains to collect herbs these 2 days. You don't have to worry about him. Just go and do your thing." Lin Muyu looked at the crowd and said, "How is everyone these days?" Situsun cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, I haven't made any progress in the cultivation of star tactics. I hope your Highness can take some time to teach me." No problem. Where's Wei Chou? Wei Chou said happily, Your Highness, I've stepped into the sanctuary realm under Chu's guidance. Great, that's great. Lin Muyu slapped her thigh and said, All of you need to step into the sanctuary realm soon. I don't want to be in my 20s while all of you are doddering old men. That would make me very sad. Everyone laughed loudly. At this time, Lin Muyu thought of something and said, Wei Chou, I have a demon god divinity here. If you don't mind, I can help you refine this divinity and start to nurture the divine power in your body to speed up your cultivation. But there will be a certain degree of danger. Are you willing? Wei Chou was overjoyed and he cupped his fists and said, I'll listen to your highness's arrangements. Great. Lin Muyu's idea was very simple. It was the method used by the 7 luminaries demon emperor back then. She injected a strand of divine power into a mortal's body. As long as the mortal's body could withstand it, the divine power would be very beneficial and could even help him step into the immortal state in advance. At night, the side hall was filled with a piercingly cold light. Lin Muyu took out her treasure cauldron and started refining the demon god divinity. The demon god divinity was roughly the same grade as the heavenly Dao divinity. It wasn't too strong, but with Lin Muyu's supremacy divinity, it was definitely able to suppress it. Although the refining process was difficult, it was still a success. When the sun rose, the demon god divinity had already dissipated. More than 70% of the divine power was lost. Close to 10% of the divine power was absorbed by Wei Chou and the remaining 20% was refined by Lin Muyu. When the sun rose, Wei Chou sat cross-legged on the ground. He could already guide the divine power to circulate in his body. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and waves of energy surged through her body. A total of 21 heavenly caves. So she had also broken through to the 21st heavenly cave realm. The cultivation of the immortal state couldn't be rushed. The right path was to improve bit by bit. Many thanks, Your Highness. Wei Chou opened his eyes and said with a face full of joy. There was a hidden divine light in his eyes. You're welcome. Lin Muyu kept the treasure cauldron and suddenly asked, Wei Chou, how is the matter of building a naval fleet going? I and the Navy Commander Bailey Tsang are already working on it. However, building a shipyard costs too much money. So for the time being, the shipyard in Lanyan City is only building warships. Please rest assured, Your Highness, there won't be any battles on the sea for the time being. Those clowns from Iha Nation are not a threat at all. Don't be negligent. We must build a naval fleet that can sweep across the sea as soon as possible. Yes. Lin Muyu didn't know why she always wanted to build a naval fleet, but she just couldn't feel at ease. She had a feeling that the current Imperial Navy was like the Northern Seas Navy. Once a new enemy appeared on the sea, the Imperial Navy would not be able to withstand a single blow. Chapter 710. 3 days later, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi set off for Lanyan City with light luggage. Both of them were god-level experts, and with their ability to fly and travel, they could rush back to Lanyan City in a day. Ouyang Yen wanted to come along, but Lin Muyu forced her to stay in Heaven Connect City. Heaven Connect City needed a god-level expert to guard it. After all, the demon race's strength was still there, so they couldn't afford to neglect it. At dusk, the forest outside Lanyan City had already lost all its leaves. It was barren, and the scene of old trees and crows could not help but make one sigh with emotion. Years passed. This city was like an old man that had experienced the vicissitudes of life, still standing there. It was just that the people had changed. Qin Jin, Chu Huaying, Qin Lei, Lei Hong and the others were no longer around. They had also taken away the memories and time that once belonged to this place. In the sky, 2 figures flew past and directly flew into the imperial capital. It was Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi. They arrived at Zetian Palace before the sky turned dark, which surprised them more or less. From Lanyan City to Heaven Connect City, it would take at least 10 days even on horseback. However, with the 2 god-level experts, it only took a day. Outside Zetian Palace, the bamboo leaves were green, and the garden in the palace naturally maintained a sense of spring. Rows of royal guards walked between the pavilions with their hands on the hilts of their swords, protecting the safety of the empire. "Who is it?" The commander of the dragon guards looked up at the sky and said, "Come out." This person's cultivation was not bad. Su Yu's judgment would not be wrong. The commander of the royal guards that she had chosen was also a top-notch expert. Although he was very young, his cultivation was at least at the 3rd level of the heaven realm. Pa-pa. Pa-pa. 2 beams of purple light flashed out. They were spatial cracks. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's figures appeared in the empty space in front of Zetian Palace. A group of royal guards rushed forward and knelt in a row. "Greetings, Your Highness King Qin." "Greetings, Princess Shi." "No need for formalities, please rise." Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "Bring me to Yen and Aunt Luo." "Yes." After receiving the report, Qin Yen and Su Yu walked straight out of the great hall. Qin Yen had a look of joy. "Big brother, you're back." As the loyal prince, this brat still maintained the simplicity and innocence of the past. Qin Yen, who was infatuated with the cultivation of martial arts, had already stepped into the Saint Heaven realm, and was only a step away from the God realm. However, his cultivation in the art of a ruler and shrewdness was equivalent to 0. If not for Su Yu assisting him, the Zetian Palace would probably have changed owners in less than half a year. Lin Muyu hugged Qin Yen, the 2 of them laughing heartily. The joy of reuniting after a long time was self-evident. Subsequently, Qin Yen turned around to look at Tang Xiaoxi and cupped his fists respectfully. "Qin Yen greets Princess Shi." Tang Xiaoxi helped him up. "Your Highness Prince Zhong, you don't have to be so polite." Su Yu smiled and said, "Since the 2 of you are travel-worn, you can stay in the Zetian Palace Hall. I will immediately order people to prepare dinner. Is there anything in particular you want to eat? It's fine as long as it's Zetian Palace Hall's food." Lin Muyu rubbed her hands and said, "It's been a long time since I've eaten in Lanyan City. Such a good opportunity is hard to come by. Don't you think so, Xiaoxi?" Tang Xiaoxi nodded, feeling a lump in her throat, but she did not speak. Back then, she, Lin Muyu, and Qin Yin were all in Lanyan City, and the memories of tasting the delicacies of the Zetian Palace Hall together seemed to be gone forever. Now that she returned to the Zetian Palace Hall again, she felt especially upset in her heart. She really wished that Qin Yin was right in front of her, and that the people she cared about were still around. However, the affairs of the world were unpredictable, and no one could have everything go as they wished. Not long after entering the Great Hall, the loud call of an attendant came from outside the hall. "The Duke of the North, Tang Zong, requests an audience." "Tang Zong is here." Su Er stood up and said with a smile, "Xiaoxi, he's the son of your second uncle, Tang Jin." Tang Xiaoxi nodded and smiled. Tang Lan and Tang Lu's rebellion was already something that had been hammered into an iron plate. However, the empire had not uprooted the Tang family, but had even found a branch of the Tang family's bloodline. How could Tang Xiaoxi not know how much effort they had put into this? Tang Zong walked in wearing a white robe. His expression was handsome, and he was no longer that little blacksmith from before. His eyes were extremely clear, and after entering, he knelt down on one knee. "Tang Zong pays his respects to Your Highness, Prince Zhong. Pays his respects to Marquis Xining." Su Yu smiled. "Tang Zong, there are 2 more people. Why don't you pay your respects?" Tang Zong was startled, because he did not recognize these 2 people at all. Although he could tell at a glance that Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi were not ordinary people, after all, they had not masked their faces. Suyu smiled, pointed at Lin Muyu, and said, "This is Her Highness, Lin Muyu, the Prince of Qin." Tang Zong hurriedly knelt down again. "This humble subject pays his respects to Your Highness, the Prince of Qin. No need to be so polite." Suyu then pointed at Tang Xiaoxi, and said, "Tang Zong, do you know who this beauty is?" Tang Zong doesn't know. He shook his head in confusion. Su Er lightly laughed. "She's your older cousin, Tang Xiaoxi. She's also your only relative in the Zetian Palace. Hurry and get to know her. In the future, you'll be family." "Older cousin." Tang Zong's eyes couldn't help but redden. "Are you really my older cousin?" Tang Xiaoxi walked up and gently stroked Tang Zong's arms, helping him up. She said, as expected, "You look a lot like second uncle when he was young." Tang Zong hurriedly bowed again. Tang Zong pays his respects to older cousin. "Oh, no, pays his respects to the Fuguo princess." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "Silly boy, stop bowing. Why are you bowing so much? Don't call me the Fuguo princess, just call me older cousin. Hurry and get up. Since you're here, why don't you have dinner with us tonight?" "Yes, older cousin." Tang Xiaoxi looked at Tang Zong's honest appearance and said with a smile, "Tang Zong, from now on, you're the successor of our Tang family. I'll teach you the mental cultivation method of the Fire Fox Seal. I hope that you'll cultivate well and be loyal to the Empire. Don't disappoint everyone's high regard and love for you. All right. Thank you, older cousin." Tang Zong naturally knew the importance of Tang Xiaoxi's words. This was equivalent to Tang Xiaoxi acknowledging her identity as a member of the Tang clan. This was something that Tang Zong had always dreamed of. Moreover, it was publicly acknowledged that one couldn't become the master of the Seven Seas Tang sect without cultivating the Fire Fox Seal. Tang Xiaoxi personally imparting the Fire Fox Seal was a great honor. A little later, a winged cavalry warrior came to report, "Prince Xian Feng Jixing's convoy has entered Lanyan City and is heading toward the Zetian Palace. Dinner isn't ready yet. Big brother Feng has finally made it in time for dinner. He's really in a hurry." Lin Muyu smiled. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, "Mu, should we go and welcome General Feng?" Lin Muyu nodded. Seeing that Tang Xiaoxi didn't harbor any hatred toward Feng Jixing, he felt at ease. After all, the 100 traitors from the Tang clan, as well as Tang Lu, were all killed by Feng Jixing. If Tang Xiaoxi hated Feng Jixing, there was nothing wrong with that. However, Tang Xiaoxi was a righteous person and knew that Tang Lu and the others were courting death by themselves and had nothing to do with others. Not long after, several tens of riders left the Zetian Palace, heading toward the Tongtian Street to welcome Prince Xian. From afar, there was an endless stream of carriages, and the flags of Prince Xian and the Empire's purple Yinhua were connected together. Feng Jixing was riding at the very front of the crowd, flying over. When he saw Lin Muyu from afar, he could not help but let out a hearty laugh and say, You're really early. That's right. To think that you even got a guard of honor to come over." Lin Muyu touched her nose and said, "Big brother Feng, you've changed. You're no longer that simple and unadorned. You've started to pay attention to extravagance and the prestige of a king. Sigh, I really didn't expect this." Feng Jixing smiled unhappily and said, "I really feel like hitting you. Do you think that I don't want to fly to Lanyan City alone? But look at what the carriages behind me are transporting. There are over 1,000 heavenly books, a tremendous amount of weapons, shields, armors, and rations, as well as 500 carriages of gold and silver. If I don't personally escort them and get robbed by the mountain bandits on the way, wouldn't I be busy in Lingnan for the past half a year? All right. You're right. The food in the Zetian Palace is almost ready. Let's go in and eat while we talk. All right. In the palace, a group of maids and attendants kept on serving the dishes. A total of 3 tables had been set up. After all, Feng Jixing had brought back Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, Chen Xiaoli, and the other generals. There was a need to arrange tables for them. Big brother Feng, I have something to show you. Lin Muyu pulled Feng Jixing to a corner of the palace and took out 2 sabers from her qianquan bag. One was enshrouded in flames while the other was surrounded by wind blades. They were the Crimson Phoenix and Azure Dragon divine weapons. Both of them were subdivine grade and much stronger than the Saint grade Wind Cutter saber. Oh my god, Feng Jixing could no longer remain calm. He grabbed the Crimson Phoenix with one hand and felt a wave of blazing energy surging into his palm. It actually fused with his law of fire and divine power in an instant. It was as if the saber had instantly become a part of his body. He instantly entered the realm of being one with the saber. He frowned immediately. These 2 sabers are mine. Do you know how to use dual sabers? Lin Muyu asked. Ha ha ha, Feng Jixing laughed loudly. Are you kidding me? The wind saber technique that I created is a different path. It originally had a set of dual sabers. Don't worry. What's so special about these sabers? They're called the Crimson Phoenix and Azure Dragon respectively. They're the weapons of a sovereign in the ghost realm. Feng Jixing was stunned. You're actually helping me get weapons from the sovereign? I didn't. I killed him and took them while I was at it. But I'm not giving these 2 sabers to you for free. Lin Muyu said. Feng Jixing narrowed his eyes. Name your price. Don't be too harsh. The taxes in Lingnan aren't that high. Lin Muyu raised 2 fingers. Oh. Feng Jixing was overjoyed. At least you have a conscience. 2 million Jin coins is enough. Who said 2 million? I want 200 million Jin coins. What? 200 million? Feng Jixing was shocked. Do you think I'm a tycoon? 200 million Jin coins is enough to make the treasury of Xiang City lose a layer of its skin. That's right. Lin Muyu said, I still need to ask Yen for another 200 million. Together with the 100 million I have, it will be 500 million. Why do you need 500 million Jin coins? Feng Jixing was stunned. To build a dock in Lingdong province and build fortress ships and warships. Feng Jixing fell silent. But he knew that Lin Muyu's knowledge was definitely outstanding even on the continent. He nodded and said, all right, no problem. The Jin coins will arrive in Winterfrost City next month. Just let me know if you need anything else. Craftsmen, people who know how to build ships. Okay, I'll do my best. Chapter 7:11. To the north of the Tongtian Gorge, after passing through numerous mountain ranges, there was a plateau covered with a sea of snow. The 8 Wastelands, a vast plain, was once the gathering place of demons. However, the climate of the 8 Wastelands was very harsh. Over 7 out of 12 months of the year, it was covered with thick snow. Therefore, the grazing season and planting season could not exceed 5 months at most. However, such a barren plateau provided the main provisions for the hundreds of thousands of demons in the heaven-reaching gorge year after year. Several hundred years ago, the Demon King and the Saint Master led the majority of the demon race's population and army out of the Ba Wasteland, leaving only one aristocratic family of the demon race to guard the Ba Wasteland, which was the Nan Nan family, a famous family of the demon race. Lianji, Lianhai, Bai Bing and other demon race experts came from the Nan Nan family. For the past several hundred years, the Nan Nan family's contributions couldn't go unnoticed. At this moment, the 8 wastelands was covered with ice and snow. Looking into the distance, there were no signs of human habitation. Only a group of cavalrymen on the snowy plains were galloping towards a castle in the distance. Zhongnan City was the fief of the Nan Nan family. The city wasn't big, but it still had a population of 200,000 demons. The cavalry team galloped into the city, heading straight for the city lord's mansion. At the front of the team was a young high-level demon with dashing eyebrows and starry eyes. A light red longsword hung from his waist, and there was a clear and arrogant expression on his face. Shen Baichuan was the son of Shen Xiang, the patriarch of the Zhongnan aristocratic family. At a young age, he had already stepped into the realm of a 6-star demon ancestor. In the younger generation of the demon race, his cultivation was second only to Qianfeng. Moreover, Shen Baichuan was well versed in the art of war and was said to be well versed in both the pen and the sword. Back then, he was highly regarded by the Demon King and the Saint Master. If it weren't for the fact that he lost to Qianfeng in a martial arts competition, he would most likely be the #1 demon marshal. The inside of the mansion was empty and desolate. The white-bearded Shen Xiang sat on a stone bench in the courtyard, sipping tea. He said without turning his head, "Baichuan, what's the matter?" Shen Baichuan's expression was grave as he bowed and said, "Father, are we going to keep waiting like this?" "Wait? What do you mean? Father, can't you tell?" Shen Baichuan's eyes were cold. In the Battle of Tongtian Province, our god race suffered a crushing defeat. Qianfeng's command was weak, and Lin Muyu killed many of our warriors. Now, the god race's military strength in the Tongtian Gorge is only half of what it was half a year ago. Our Zhongnan aristocratic families lived frugally. Did they squander our wealth like this? Shut up. Shen Xiang stood up and said sternly, "His Majesty the Divine Emperor has made his own decision. You have no right to speak." "Father." Shen Baichuan cupped his fists, his cloak fluttering behind him. His eyes were filled with determination as he said, "Indecisiveness leads to chaos. If this continues, I'm afraid that the 10,000-year foundation of our Nan Nan family will be dragged down by His Majesty the Divine Emperor for too long. Does Father want to be the sinner of the Nan Nan family? Baichuan, why are you speaking so presumptuously today?" Shen Xiang's eyes were filled with coldness. Shen Baichuan immediately knelt on the ground, his body trembling as he said, "Because I just went to inspect the cities under my jurisdiction. There are people dying of starvation and cold everywhere, especially in Willow City. Almost half of the people in the city died of starvation. The people have lost their homes, and the plague is spreading everywhere. The divine capital wants us to provide 3 times the number of horses, food, and weapons. If Father agrees, I'm afraid the Nan Nan family will be finished." Shen Xiang squinted his eyes and asked, "What do you want to do?" Shen Baichuan gritted his teeth, "I hope Father can let me go to Tongtian Gorge. I want to see His Majesty personally and ask him to change the overall strategy. Defending Tongtian Gorge will only cause our god race to lose again and again. Ever since Qianfeng married Her Highness Jing, he has been living like a prince. He's no longer as wise as he was in the past. If we let Qianfeng lead the god race's army, I'm afraid it will lead to the destruction of our god race. Then how do you think the god race should defend against the enemy? The Empire's demonic crystal cannons are very powerful. They have a long range and great power. Even if they are not accurate enough, they are still very terrifying. They can dominate the entire battlefield. The energy of the Tongtian Gorge is getting weaker day by day. As long as the Empire gathers enough demonic crystal cannons, they can blast the Tongtian Gorge open and advance into the Tongtian Gorge step by step. The narrow terrain of the Tongtian Gorge is not conducive for large armies to fight. It's very difficult to use the roundabout strategy. Once the humans transport the demonic crystal cannons in, the Tongtian Gorge will become the burial ground of hundreds of thousands of god race warriors. So, Shen Baichuan took a deep breath. His eyes were full of wisdom as he said, if I were the commander, I would order the god race to retreat from the Tong Tian Gorge, give up the god's capital and enter the 8 wastelands. We will retreat in order to advance. We will disperse the armor demons and form an alliance with the northern desert tribes from the north. We will break through the northern gate of the Empire's Cloud Province and attack the Empire's army from the plains. As long as we get the Cloud Province, we will have the capital to continue to compete with the humans. Father, as the saying goes, water is unpredictable and soldiers are unpredictable. If we are trapped in the Tong Tian Gorge, it will only lead to our destruction. That's all I have to say. Father, please judge the situation. Xianxiang sat on the stone stool again. The cold stool made his buttocks feel cold. After a while, Xianxiang said, "Why do you think that His Majesty the God Emperor will appreciate you and give you the title of Marshal?" Because, Shen Baichuan smiled and said, because Zhongnan family has 100,000 cavalrymen in the 8 wastelands. These 100,000 cavalrymen can protect His Majesty. If His Majesty doesn't retreat into the 8 wastelands, then our 100,000 cavalrymen can't provide such protection for His Majesty. Xianxiang was startled. Baichuan, what do you mean by that? What I mean is very clear. If Feng Yuan can become the God race's emperor, then Xianxiang can also become the God race's emperor. If Feng Yuan is stubborn, then he can no longer be the God race's emperor. Xianxiang pondered for a long time before he waved his hand and said, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep for a while. Baichuan, you decide everything yourself. This is the Zhongnan family's golden seal, you have to use it properly. With that, Xianxiang stood up and walked shakily to his room. 2 graceful maids hurriedly came out to welcome him. On the other hand, Shen Baichuan's gaze was fixed on the stone table. There was a small and exquisite golden seal on the table. This golden seal was the symbol of the highest authority in the entire Nan aristocrat clan. It was the tiger seal that could mobilize 100,000 cavalrymen. Immediately, Shen Baichuan's heart pounded violently. He was actually so close to the highest authority. Wasn't this the day he had been dreaming of? His palm covered the golden seal's handle. Even the golden seal still had Xianxiang's warmth. Father, just watch. I will definitely revive the god race. 100 miles west of Lanyan City, an ancient city pass stood between the plains and the endless forest. It was the demon-subduing pass, a pass that had existed for a long time. It was the existence of the demon-subduing pass that prevented the millions of demons from invading the east and ensured the long-term peace of Lanyan City. During the 4 years that Tang Xiaoxi had been in a coma in the Tongtian Gorge, the demons had repeatedly caused trouble at the pass. As a result, the Zhe Tian Palace had ordered to increase the number of Marquis Jianxi's soldiers to 150,000. At the same time, the demon-subduing pass had been expanded to become a huge pass that could accommodate 150,000 soldiers. From the east of the pass, a man and a woman were walking side by side. They weren't walking fast, but they weren't slow either. Sergeant, look, someone is coming over there. A young soldier stood up and pointed into the distance. Under the battlement, the sleepy middle-aged sergeant rubbed his eyes and glanced outside the wall. He couldn't help but frown and said, "That's strange. The demon-subduing pass is so desolate. The demon-subduing pass is full of demons who eat people without spitting out their bones. Who would come to the demon-subduing pass? Could it be that they are poachers who want to hunt spirit beasts in the endless forest? It doesn't look like it, sir. The leather robes that they are wearing seem to have the Qin clan's purple Yinhua emblem." The sergeant squinted his eyes and took a closer look. He couldn't help but tremble. Oh my God, that man is wearing 3 golden general stars and is wearing a noble battle robe. Could he be one of the 3 kings? Also, sir, that woman is wearing a princess robe. I've seen Princess Tang Wei in Lanyan City. She was wearing the same robe. Then, they must be His Highness Prince Qin and Princess Tang Xiaoxi. It can't be. Is it His Highness Prince Qin who has become a god? At this moment, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi had arrived at the bottom of the city. They leaped up and easily flew above the city. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the dumbfounded soldiers who didn't know whether they should shoot their arrows or not. She smiled and said, "Don't just stand there. Go and inform Lord Tangjun that Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu are here." Yes, yes. A captaincy was overwhelmed by the favor and scrambled down the pass. Not long after, a martial artist wearing a silver battle robe sprinted down the cold stone steps. It was Tangjun. When he saw Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi in the air, Tangjun's body trembled. He knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. Subordinate Tangjun greets His Highness Prince Qin and Princess Shi. No need to stand on ceremony. Tang Xiaoxi floated down and held Tangjun's arms. She smiled and said, "You've worked hard guarding the demon suppression pass for so many years." "Not at all." Tangjun said with some bitterness, "Princess Shi, you're finally back." Because Ling Hu Yen hasn't seen Princess Shi for too long, he thinks that the Empire has harmed you, so he has repeatedly violated the border. These years, the demon suppression pass has been in constant war. More than 20,000 soldiers have died for the Empire because of this. Tang Xiaoxi was startled and said softly, "Yes, I understand. I'll go to the Forest of Infinity with Mu in the afternoon to see Ling Hu Yen. Don't worry, the demon clan won't disturb the demon suppression pass anymore." "Thank you, Princess Shi." Tangjun was grateful and said, "I'll hold a banquet in the pass at noon to entertain Your Highness and Princess Shi." Although the demon suppression pass is very poor, there's still some game that can go with the wine. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. "Yes, that's good. Then send an envoy with the Tang sect's iron order as a token to see Ling Hu Yen in the Forest of Infinity. Let her come to the demon suppression pass to apologize." "Yes." Tangjun was overjoyed. Chapter 712. On a winter afternoon, Lin Muyu and Tangjun hadn't seen each other for a long time. Moreover, they were in a bitter and cold place like the demon suppression pass, so they drank a few more cups of wine and were slightly tipsy. Standing side by side with Tangjun on the demon suppression pass, they gazed at the Forest of Infinity. The highest point of the demon suppression pass was at least 50 meters tall and was the tallest building in the Forest of Infinity. The view was extremely wide, and they could see more than half of the Forest of Infinity. "Your Highness, look, how beautiful these mountains and rivers are." Tangjun gazed at the white snow in the distance, his face full of drunkenness. Lin Muyu couldn't help but point at the mountains and rivers, saying, "Although it's difficult, these mountains and rivers are gradually being incorporated into our territory. If the Qin Empire can be unified, you and I will both be heroes." Tangjun smiled, "I don't ask for any achievements, I just want to stand in this world and not let anyone down." "Your Highness, you've been fighting all these years, it's really been hard on you." "What hard?" Lin Muyu laughed self-deprecatingly, "It's just like what you said, using war to stop war, to pacify the world, so that the people don't have to suffer the pain of war. All I want is to have a clear conscience. For 10 years. I've been fighting and killing, but I have a clear conscience. Those I've killed are those who deserve to be killed." Tangjun was stunned for a moment, then said, "I'll be fair. If Great Qin didn't have you, Lin Muyu, I'm afraid the chaos would continue for another 20 years. Xiangyu, the Duke of Southern, killed 1 million people to save a city, that's an ambitious and ruthless person. Your Highness, you killed one person to save tens of thousands, that's a hero. The eyes of the world are bright, and they will see it very clearly. Lin Muyu laughed under the cover of her drunkenness and said clearly, if I had a choice, I wouldn't want to kill a single person. Who doesn't want to live a peaceful life? If I could choose, I'd rather plant 10 miles of peach blossoms and stay with the person I like. I'd no longer care about the affairs of the world. Who cares about the disputes between kings, who cares about the flames of war? I'd be happy in Xiaoyao. It's just a pity. Tang Zhen was even more drunk now, and he didn't care about the etiquette between a ruler and an official. He smiled and said, it's just a pity that the people you, Lin Muyu, like are the Empress and Princess Shi. No matter which one it is, they won't let you live such a romantic life, right? Lin Muyu chuckled and patted Tang Zhen on the shoulder. It's good that you know that. A man should be responsible. I will defend the mission that Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi shoulder with them. Even if I am bruised all over, I will have no regrets. Tang Xiaoxi, who was listening at the side, was very touched. She raised her head and looked at Lin Muyu's handsome face, which was slightly red, and said, Mumu, are you really willing to guard the peach blossoms for me and Xiao Yin? Yes, I do. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. But I don't really like peaches. Tenli pear blossom it is then. I don't like pears either. Tenli grape trellis then. Grapes are too sour and hurt my teeth. Then. Lin Muyu was about to cry. Great aunt, what do you like to eat? Meat. Tang Xiaoxi held Lin Muyu's hand excitedly. Mu, after Xiao Yin returns and becomes successful, how about we go to the dragon forest to be hunters? Cloud deer meat for breakfast, mountain pork for lunch, and bear paw for dinner. What a wonderful life. Aren't you afraid of getting fat? Lin Muyu was helpless. Tang Zhen smiled and said, Your Highness, don't forget that foxes eat meat. Humph. Tang Xiaoxi glared at Tang Zhen. You are siding with an outsider. Tang Zhen, are you still a member of the Tang family? Yes, how can I not be? Tang Zhen grinned and said, Your Highness, I heard that you have met the illegitimate son of Second Master Tang Jin, Tang Zong, in Lanyan City? Yes, I have. It's a pity that I have to guard the demon subduing pass. Otherwise, I would like to go back and pay my respects to this Duke of Zhenbei, the new master of the Seven Seas Tang sect. It's fine. After we meet Ling Hu Yen, you can naturally go back and see Tang Zong. Yes. Lin Muyu wanted to say something but stopped herself. Actually, everyone knew that although Tang Zong had been conferred the title of Duke of Zhenbei, he was nothing compared to the four dukes, Wei Chou, Xiang Yu, Zheng Yifan, and Luo Xian. First of all, Tang Zong's military strength was extremely limited. The power of life and death in the Seven Seas province was concentrated in the hands of Zhe Tian Palace. But overall, it was still a good thing. After all, there was still a seedling left for the Seven Seas Tang sect. In truth, there were simply too many seedlings that wanted to find the Tang sect. Tang Lu and Tang Tian were both hedonistic young masters who had harmed many young girls among the common people when they were alive. If Xiao Han from the Fire Sparrow Division sent people to investigate, he could find at least 100 of them. But Lin Muyu couldn't be bothered to do such a strenuous and unrewarding thing. Since Qin Yin had chosen Tang Zong when she was alive, then so be it. In any case, this fellow was honest and kind. Fortune favors fools, and he would not incite Zheng Yifan's jealousy and be killed. At this moment, the sound of hooves and conch horns came from afar. The demons from the endless forest had arrived. The horses' hooves made a rustling sound on the snowy ground. Ling Hu Yen was dressed in a white robe. Her hair was elegantly coiled into a golden crown, and resplendent white diamond earrings swayed beside her ears. Her entire being was as beautiful as an elf in the snow. She was worthy of the title of the Endless Forest's #1 beauty. Behind her, hundreds of demon generals spurred their horses to follow. Not a single one of them dared to overstep Ling Hu Yan's position. After all, there was a difference in status. When Ling Hu Yan raised her head to look at the demon subduing pass, she saw a vague figure that was very familiar. It was Tang Xiaoxi. Her Highness she, Ling Hu Yan's entire body trembled, and her nose felt sour. Without turning her head, she said to the demon generals behind her, Her Highness she is not dead. Her Highness she is not dead. The Empire did not betray the demon race. That's great. Her Highness she is not dead. The group of generals raised their weapons one after another and shouted loudly, venting the joy in their hearts. The demon race's way of celebrating was so violent that the densely packed archers on the city gates all knocked their arrows and pulled them into a full moon, aiming at Ling Hu Yan and the others in the distance. Put down your bows and arrows. Lin Muyu's voice was not very loud, but it was very penetrating, and there was an unquestionable sense of command in her voice. Immediately, the group of archers put down their bows and arrows. No one dared to act rashly. In front of a divine-level king, anyone who dared to act rashly would be courting death. Tang Xiaoxi's face was full of joy. Ling Hu Yan is here. Mu, shall we go down? All right. Tang Xiaoxi leaped up and disappeared in a flash. A spatial ripple appeared in the air, and the next moment, her figure had already appeared several hundred meters below the city walls. This was the extraordinary power of a divine-level expert. Tang Zhen was stunned. When he turned to look again, he discovered that Lin Muyu had also disappeared. She had appeared on the snowy ground below the city walls. Tang Xiaoxi's figure, her cloak fluttering in the wind, was elegant and free of dust. These two divine-level experts were really infuriating. Tang Zhen clenched his fists and said to the group of captaincy behind him, Come, follow me down the city walls to welcome Ling Hu Yan. Yes. Ling Hu Yan dismounted and knelt on both knees, disregarding the filth on the snowy ground. Her voice trembled as she said, Ling Hu Yan of the demon clan greets Her Highness she, Ling Hu Yan, get up. Tang Xiaoxi helped her up and said, Why did you start a war with the Empire when I wasn't around? You even killed so many Empire soldiers. How do you expect me to explain this? Ling Hu Yan looked aggrieved as she said, I had no choice. Princess she suddenly disappeared from the world. Princess she's grandfather committed suicide in Hundred Ridge City and died for the country. Her brother, Tang Lu, lost his military power in Seven Seas Pass. I thought that the Empire had already made up its mind to completely eradicate the Tang family, so we sent troops to attack Demon Subduing Pass, Tang Xiaoxi was extremely helpless. I asked you to be loyal to the Empire, not to the Tang family. You can't betray the Empire just for me, can you? You attacked Demon Subduing Pass and caused so many Empire soldiers to lose their lives. The Demon clan must have suffered a lot as well. Why bother? But Ling Hu Yan still wanted to argue. But Lin Muyu persuaded her, Shao Shi, Ling Hu Yan is confused because of her concern. Don't blame her anymore. Alas, Tang Xiaoxi sighed helplessly. The demon clan was always a double-edged sword. They could protect Lanyan City, but they could also deal a fatal blow to Lanyan City. No matter what, she was duty-bound. At this moment, Tang Zhen and the others rode over and dismounted to salute. After the salute, Tang Zhen glanced at Ling Hu Yan and said, Ling Hu Yan, you really made us suffer. I fought side by side with you, but in the blink of an eye, you don't recognize us anymore. Ling Hu Yan pouted and said, Lord Tang Zhen didn't give way either. Your ballistae and magic crystal cannons also intimidated our demon clan warriors. Tang Xiaoxi said, now that I'm here, you two should stop fighting, okay? Just give me, Tang Xiaoxi, some face. Lin Muyu saw some clues and asked with a smile, Ling Hu Yan, you are still unmarried, right? Yes, Your Highness, do you want to introduce me? Ling Hu Yan giggled. Lin Muyu nodded and looked at Tang Zhen, asking, Marquis Xianxia, you are also unmarried, right? Tang Zhen touched his nose and said, yes, I am still alone. When your highness is with the princess, you don't care about my feelings at all. Alas. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Ling Hu Yen, what do you think of Tang Zhen? Ling Hu Yen was stunned and instantly understood that Lin Muyu wanted to be a matchmaker. She glanced at Tang Zhen and pouted, saying, he is ugly, but he is not bad. Lin Muyu smiled knowingly and said, Tang Zhen, what do you think of Ling Hu Yen? Your Highness, Ling Hu Yen is the most beautiful woman this subordinate has ever seen, second only to Her Highness Qin Yin and Princess Shi. That's good. Since the two of you don't reject each other, and you're both single, why don't I be the matchmaker? The two of you should get married. It'll be the best of both worlds. Apart from accomplishing a beautiful thing, it'll also guarantee the eternal peace between the demon subduing pass and the demon race. This, what, you don't want to? No, this subordinate is willing. Tang Zhen cupped his fists and revealed a happy expression, this subordinate will listen to your highness's arrangements. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and asked, Ling Hu Yen, are you willing to marry Marquis Xianxia Tang Zhen? Ling Hu Yen immediately blushed and said, I. If you have something to say, just say it. I originally thought that your highness she would marry Lin Muyu and I would be a dowry, a concubine or something. I didn't think that your highness she would value this servant so much. Lin Muyu wanted to die and said, how can your imagination be so rich? I don't take concubines. Ling Hu Yen smiled and said, since your highness Prince Qin doesn't want me, then I can only marry Marquis Xianxia. Tang Zhen was overjoyed. A beautiful wife with a voluptuous figure had fallen from the sky, how could he not be happy? That night, the demon subduing pass set up 200 tables on the snowy ground outside the pass and held Tang Zhen and Ling Hu Yan's wedding with great fanfare. Moreover, Prince Qin and Princess Fu Guo were the witnesses. Chapter 713. A heavy snow in early spring swept across the entire gorge. The once majestic fairy's capital was now covered in a layer of white. There were messy hoof prints on the mountain roads. The hoof prints were half the size of normal warhorses. These were purebred warhorses unique to the northern desert. They were majestic and powerful. The hoof prints led straight to the fairy's capital. Clatter, clatter, the sound of swords rubbing against armor was heard. The group went to the palace, where Demon King Feng Yuan lived. Bang, the golden gate opened slowly. A high-level demon walked out with 2 rows of guards in golden armor. He shouted, Shen Baichuan of the Nan family greets His Majesty. Then, he walked up and cupped his hands. General Shen, the guards of faraway country need to remove their weapons to greet His Majesty. Please. Shen Baichuan smiled coldly and didn't say anything else. He ordered his subordinates to remove their swords and handed them to the attendants. Then, he strode into the hall with 4 of his subordinates, each of whom wore the insignia of a major. After all, Shen Baichuan was a duke at the border. The Demon King sat on the throne while Qianfeng and the other generals stood on both sides. When Qianfeng and Shen Baichuan's eyes met, it was as if there was a fire burning in their eyes. Shen Baichuan and Qianfeng were known as the twin walls of the gods' race. They were both the best of the younger generation. Qianfeng was slightly better, but Shen Baichuan had never admitted defeat. General, you must be tired. Feng Yuan smiled, holding the blade of kings. Shen Baichuan cupped his fists. Your Majesty. I wonder why the young general has come to God's capital this time. Princess Royal Feng Jing, who was beside the Demon King, asked. For the sake of saving the entire race from the abyss. What are you talking about? Feng Jing, was unhappy. The gods' race has been in the fairies' capital for thousands of years. How come we're in the abyss now? Shen Baichuan raised his brows. Princess Jean, Heaven's Gorge is easy to attack but hard to defend. The Sky Veil has been repeatedly destroyed, and we've lost our barrier. Isn't this like fire and water? The human empire has stationed 200,000 elite soldiers at the front line of Sky Bridge City, and nearly 1,000 magic crystal cannons are eyeing us covetously. They may break through the southern gate of our Protoss race at any time. Does this count as being close to the abyss? You. Feng Jing gritted her teeth, but she didn't know how to refute. Feng Yuan's expression was calm, and he didn't show anything. He only smiled. General, you've been reading military books for a long time, so you must have extraordinary foresight. Since you've come to the fairies' capital, tell me, what do you think? Shen Baichuan cupped his hands and said, the Qin Empire only relies on the magic crystal cannons. Your Majesty, you can imagine that Wei Chou has led the Longdan army camp to operate in the Sky Bridge province for a long time. He's very experienced in both defense and offense. If we fight a positional battle with the Qin Empire, we'll definitely lose with their magic crystal cannons and battle formations. Even if Marshal Qianfeng connects with the Iha country and attacks from the south, it's just a temporary measure. Don't forget that Prince Xian, Feng Jixing, is eyeing us from the Qinling Mountains with 200,000 soldiers. As long as the Iha country attacks from the coast, they might be wiped out by Feng Jixing before they can even see the flag of the Longdan army camp. If that's the case, the gods' race will definitely lose. All the officials were rendered speechless by his words and remained silent. The Demon Emperor nodded slightly and said, Little General, please continue. Shen Baichuan swept his gaze across and saw a hint of unwillingness flashing past Qianfeng's face. It was as if his thoughts had been exposed. Shen Baichuan couldn't help but feel a little proud and continued, Lin Muyu is looking forward to fighting a positional battle with us. Therefore, he's not anxious at all. After taking over the Sky Bridge province, he's been training his troops, waiting for us to attack and send ourselves to our deaths. However, we might not necessarily have to fight a decisive battle with them on the plains. Why do you say that? The Demon Emperor was surprised. Shen Baichuan said respectfully, back then, the reason why the gods' race was able to march straight into the continent, taking over 2 of the Empire's provinces and reaching the Five Valleys city was because of their mobile battle tactics. The armor demons are ferocious and can be said to be invincible in field battles. However, in the subsequent battles, we gave up on field battles and chose to fight a positional battle with the Qin Empire. After they obtained the arrow boxes, they also developed the magic crystal cannons. How can we not be defeated? The Demon Emperor narrowed his eyes and asked, Little General, what strategy do you have to deal with them? Shen Baichuan smiled, it's very simple. 8 words to defeat the Empire. Which 8 words? An elder asked. Attack when they're unprepared and defeat when they're weak. Shen Baichuan said. How do you attack when they're unprepared? Defeat when they're weak again? Feng Jing saw that Qianfeng was being pressured step by step. She hurriedly spoke to help Qianfeng regain some face. Shen Baichuan said, in order to completely destroy the divine race, the Qin Empire has gathered almost all of their magic crystal cannons in the Tongtian province. As for the other provinces, even the capital cities only have dozens of magic crystal cannons as decorations. In that case, why don't we turn our army around and retreat to the 8 wastelands? Then, together with the barbarian tribes of the northern desert, we can attack the Cloud Province from the northern snow region. The Cloud Province is guarded by Duke Luo Xian of the Northern Kingdom. He has no more than 200,000 soldiers and less than 100 magic crystal cannons. This year is a cold spring, and there will be another heavy snowfall before March. This snow is our chance to turn defeat into victory. All 200,000 armor demons will be divided into 20 groups and we will attack the Cloud Province under the cover of the snow. Together with the spies we have been operating in the Cloud Province for many years, we won't have to worry about Twilight Rain City. Feng Jing bit her red lips and was speechless again. What do you think? What do you think? Shen Baichuan asked with a stern expression. The group of old officials nodded their heads and seemed to have no other ideas. At this moment, Qianfeng suddenly slammed his palm on the table beside him and said in a low voice, "Nonsense. You're just an armchair strategist." Oh? Shen Baichuan smiled and said, "Why does Marshal Qianfeng think that I'm just an armchair strategist?" Qianfeng's eyes were cold as he said, "First, if there is another heavy snow, the food for the 200,000 armor demons will be the biggest problem. We will be able to harvest some of the food in the Tongtian Gorge in a month. At least, it will be enough for the armor demons to get through the winter. However, if we send our army to the north and launch an attack on the Cloud Province from the snowfield, food will be the biggest problem. 200,000 armor demons will have to eat 2 million kilograms of food every day. Where will they come from? I'm afraid that they will all starve to death before they even enter the Cloud Province. Second, the tribes of the northern desert will come as fast as hungry wolves. Haven't the tribes of the 8 wastelands been harassed by the northern desert enough? Cooperating with the northern desert is no different from asking a tiger for its skin. Maybe the Cloud Province will be destroyed before we even enter our nest. Third, the Tongtian Gorge is the foundation of the Protoss. Only in the worm nest can we hatch the armor demons, the winged people, and the giant flying snakes. Without the help of these strange creatures, we will lose the foundation to challenge the Qin Empire. Shen Baichuan, do you know that war is unpredictable and water is unpredictable, but you don't know how to adapt to the situation, time, and place? Marshal is right, but I have a way to deal with all of them. Shen Baichuan smiled confidently and said, "First, food will not be a problem. Although it is spring, the Zhongnan family can still provide food for 100,000 armor demons. The other 100,000 can be fed like ducks. Kill 1,000 armor demons every day and feed the rest of the armor demons, which can last for a month. Second, although the northern desert is a wolf, they are still bullied by the Qin Empire. If we promise them great benefits, they will definitely work for the Protoss. Third, as long as Lin Muyu gives the order, the magic crystal cannons will blast the sky, and the army will advance step by step. With the cultivation of the God State experts like Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi, does Marshal Qianfeng still think that the giant flying snakes can be of use? Feed the armor demons with the corpses of the armor demons? Qianfeng couldn't help but laugh. I'm afraid only General Shen Baichuan can think of such a cruel way to exterminate the armor demons. The armor demons are beasts, why not? As the saying goes, the merciful do not lead the army. Marshal Qianfeng should understand this, right? Shen Baichuan did not budge an inch and sneered, no wonder the marshal lost to Lin Muyu time and time again. Qianfeng trembled with anger. Shen Baichuan, do you want the entire Protoss to be consigned to eternal damnation? No, I will only let the Protoss become the masters of the Shattered Cauldron world again. Shen Baichuan turned around and looked at the Demon Emperor. He knelt down on one knee and raised a golden seal in his hand. Your Majesty, the Zhongnan family's golden seal is here. As long as your Majesty agrees, Shen Baichuan is willing to lead the 100,000 cavalrymen of the Zhongnan family to regain the lost territory for your Majesty. However, we cannot use Marshal Qianfeng's strategy anymore. The Marshal is merciful and doesn't want blood to be spilled. Naturally, he can't contend with famous generals like Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Xiang Yu. Feng Yuan took a deep breath. He naturally knew that other than the 200,000 armor demons under Qianfeng's command, the 100,000 cavalrymen of the Zhongnan family was the most reliable. Thus, he asked, "Young general, where are the 100,000 cavalrymen of the 8 wastelands defending?" "They are at the 8 wastelands, waiting for your Majesty to dispatch them." Shen Baichuan lowered his head. What he meant was that if Feng Yuan didn't withdraw from the Tongtian Gorge, the 100,000 cavalrymen wouldn't be dispatched by Feng Yuan. Qianfeng, Feng Yuan suddenly called out. Qianfeng hastily cupped his fists and knelt on the ground. Imperial Father, Qianfeng is here. You. Demon King's eyes flickered. Very well. Someone, give the other commander's seal to Shen Baichuan. From now on, Shen Baichuan and Qianfeng will be the commanders of the divine race. Shen Baichuan will command the 100,000 cavalrymen of the 8 wastelands, while Qianfeng will command the 200,000 armor demons. That's it. Shen Baichuan's face was full of joy as he took the commander's seal. Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty, but... Your Majesty, if you want me to attack the Cloud Middle Province, I'll need an army of 100,000 armor demons. Additionally, I'll need 10 giant flying snakes. In your dreams. Qianfeng's voice was cold. I won't hand over the armor demons to an unscrupulous person. Shen Baichuan only snickered, but didn't say anything. Feng Yuan opened his mouth. Qianfeng, cede the military power according to Commander Shen's request. Our divine race needs a way out. The Tongtian Gorge is so narrow, it's not a good place to stay for long. Imperial Father, Qianfeng raised his head to look at Feng Yuan, only to see that Feng Yuan's face was old. Feng Yuan was an old man. Even after stepping into the God realm, he still began to grow old. He had long lost his original ambition. You're tuning into the UnparalleledSwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.